Maybe I should put this in. There we go. Oh man. Am I ready? Are you guys ready? This is indeed gonna be the first of hopefully not too many, because there's a lot of submissions. Anyways, welcome to plane review. First plane. No, we're gonna do that during the actual first plane. Oh my god. Oh, hello. That's a subscription. How's it going, Soundboard? Thanks so much for the subby wubby. Much appreciated. Woo, scared the crap out of me. But yes, welcome in everybody. This is gonna be the first plane review I have ever done. Yes, welcome to this. Oh, and thank you so much, Lenius. Let me see. Lenius Aethernon. I think I got it. Aethernon. How's it going? Thanks so much for the follow. But welcome everybody to plane review. We are indeed going to be reviewing some of these fictional aircrafts, mostly to determine how realistic they are, not necessarily to say, as somebody put in here, Westonios, time for Tony to destroy his hopes and dreams for some people. You see, I can't do that, thankfully, because they were already destroyed when these planes and other type of plane-like ships already do not exist. I'm only going to explain why perhaps they might not be feasible in reality, or for some, why they probably could be feasible in reality. I've taken a quick look. Oh, thanks so much for the subby wubby. Goodness gracious. Oh, I pre-fired the sub, thanks. Let's go. But like I was saying, the point of this is essentially, for those of you who are just joining in and don't quite know what is today, I'll be going over some user submissions, community submissions about aircraft, mainly aircraft. I made sure to type airplanes as much as I possibly could so that y'all wouldn't give me spaceships, and from fictional stuff, like, you know, whether it be anime, games, other sort of media that don't exactly exist in a real capacity. And I'll essentially be using leverage my knowledge in VTuber versus IRL job thing, my leverage in aircraft design, operational performance, and so on and so forth, and determine whether these things could exist, or what design oversights there may have been that might make the aircraft a little unrealistic. And I did have a chance to look at the user submissions throughout the past week or so, but we will determine to kind of help guide my voice. So the point of this is to not destroy anyone's hopes and dreams. It's just to see what other things could there be that would keep a fictional aircraft designer from, maybe they haven't considered it, you know? But yeah, I'm gonna try my best not to go down crazy long rabbit holes of super specific concepts that might, you know, keep a thing from existing. If I see like a recurring theme, like for instance, there's gonna be one thing or one theme that I've noticed that definitely comes up a lot with a lot of these aircraft that I've seen in the submissions, and that's the vertical stabilizers are too small. I'll point that out and I'll go into a little bit more detail, but I'm gonna try my best not to linger too much on it, because this is not the most educational of streams. This is because I didn't prepare a lesson plan, but we will go ahead and just go through as many as we can today. If for some reason I cannot finish all of them tonight, well, guess what? There's gonna be a round 2, but we'll see how far and how fast we can go. Zero, what do you mean? Space laser phasing plane isn't realistic? Maybe, maybe not. You never know. I'll have something to say about the specific design of certain space lasers things. At McDonald's, what you want? Hey, yo, can you get me that, get a number 9 large? I don't even know what a number, what is that? Like a filet o fish? I don't know. Ice cream machine working? Probably not. 55 burgers, 55 pies, 55 milkshakes, 55 fries. Ooh, I like that. McGriddles are nice. I do like McGriddles. But yes, how's it going, everybody? Pulled up and they gave me an AI. Oh no, they actually have the AI stuff coming in. That sucks. Here, I do not know if I am ready. Don't worry, I'm not ready. So to prepare myself, I pour myself a glass of Tenjaku blended whiskey. Now I'm ready. Ooh, nice. You guys are keeping me sane while I drive home for the next 3.5 hours. Holy crap. Yeah, this stream might take that long. There, poor starving Bezos can't interrupt now. Thank you. I don't want to miss any of this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna make sure that ads do not play in the middle of a description, because that would not be fair to anybody. You see, first plane XF32, ain't no way. Well, it does exist, except not really. Too far to be two words, this big blob of craft, chatting and driving is fun. Well, be careful, make sure y'all are careful, yes. But anyways, it's time. We are going to bring up the submissions. I'm still trying to think about how do I actually want to do this. I think I'm just gonna literally full screen Discord, and I'm just gonna like, yeah, I'm just gonna full screen Discord, fuck it. Yeah, I think this works just fine. Here we go. So we got that. I think I have to go here, and I gotta do this. All right, baby. Not only are y'all gonna see what I have to say about stuff, y'all get to see exactly what you wrote, I guess. There it is. Oh my goodness. So I guess we're gonna do this, right? So let me just go over the ground rules just to make sure everybody is aware of what we're all doing today. So I'll just read it verbatim. Fuck it. Rules. Please submit no more than 3 images per aircraft. I definitely did not want this to become a bit spammy. Number 2, limit of 2 submissions per person. I did not want a single person writing all the submissions. I wanted everyone to get as many submissions as they can, but I also didn't want y'all to choose between what is your favorite plane. Well, just put 2 of them up. Number 3, include aircraft name and franchise. If it's your own creation, please label it as OC. I'm open to reviewing OCs, and again, I'm not here to bash on anything that people like, per se. This is purely a discussion about the realisticness, feasibility of aircraft, not whether they're good or bad. Except one person, okay. No. Well, we'll talk about that later. Anyways, number 4, fictional aircraft only for now. If you guys like this, we will have post your favorite real airplane. And that's not going to be me bashing on it, because I don't really like bashing on stuff. It's going to be me glazing them. So we're going to have an airplane glazing stream at a future date of real aircraft. But for now, only fictional. And number 5, only aircraft, please. I don't know jack about space stuff. A lot of y'all tried to play with this one. a lot of y'all tried to like, well, it technically flew in air, and I'm like, okay, I'll do my best. What it comes down to is I will be able to talk about the aerodynamic principles behind aircraft. If it flies into space, that's good. I could speak a little bit as far as like why you maybe would or wouldn't want an airplane that also has the ability for spaceflight, but that is a case-by-case basis. So speaking of which, of spaceships, aircraft, and so on and so forth, I guess we're gonna do this. How's it going, Queen Kiko? Welcome in. Tony, my favorite real plane would probably be submitted in like first 3 submissions, and I would absolutely expect that. But no, today, plane review. So let's do this. X-Wings and TIE Interceptors approved. No, like actually, no. I'm just gonna say right now, I'm not gonna have, wait, where'd it go? Wait, did you delete your submission? Oh, somebody might have deleted that submission. Okay. Looks like, wow, no kidding. Okay, they read the rules post-haste, and I guess we submitted something. So that's probably for the best, because someone put an ARC 170, and I'm like, oh man, how do I talk about this? I have to figure it out. Oh my god, yeah, somebody put an ARC 170 from Star Wars, and I'm like, oh fuck, oh no. Wait, was that you? Oh my god. That's hilarious, dude. Yeah, you'd have to do the drone. Hey, you could do a drone. Honestly, that gives me more stuff to talk about, because I don't have experience just in, well, okay, I mainly have experience in manned aircraft design. When it comes to UAS and stuff, that's, we'll get into that at some point, but I could speak not as far into UAS as I could in manned aircraft design, but that's a separate thing. But yes, anyways, see the Grand Cipher indeed. Yeah, the Caprica fibers are air only. Yeah, I have a lot to say about this. I actually have quite a bit to say about this. So it's gonna be interesting. Anyways, I think we have lingered enough. I think this is enough introduction. Welcome to Plane Review. We are now gonna do first plane. All right, I guess we're doing this. Jumping right in. How's it going? Thanks so much, Soundboard, for your submission. First things first, first things up. We have the R-Wing from Star Fox 64 in its polygonal beauty and mastery. Let's see, and I will read the blurbs you guys posted in there. It's there's definitely some stuff where this could be interesting. So first things first, what do we got? So an R-Wing 64 from Star Fox 64 has swing wings and functional elevons in game. That's right. You can actually see the control surfaces move, which is something which is really nice to see. 8-year-old me was delighted at this. Mach speed, Mach 4.2 in atmosphere. All right, so I'll talk about this. Yeah, first plane. Drone word, go nuts. I am willing to see it. It can also barrel roll. You're right. And yes, so this is R-Wing is awesome. It is awesome. So I'll talk about this figure in a sec, but before I do that, let's talk about the actual design of the aircraft here. It can fly in space, but the fact that it has functional elevons, in this case, I think these are literally the only two control surfaces on this entire wing, besides the fact that the wings sweep, but that's less to do about control and more to do about high-speed efficiency. It's an aileron roll. Oh my god, yeah, kind of. Yeah, so this poses a very interesting topic. So this is an R-Wing. It has its ability to, close its wings for faster flight. In general, you want your wings to be more swept as you go to faster speeds, because it has a lot to do with shock waves and going supersonic. Breaking the sound barrier, oblique shocks, much better. When I say oblique shock, I mean like literally the shock wave, instead of being like a wall, it's like a cone. Those are weaker shock waves than actual straight normal shocks, which will allow you to go even faster because that won't slow you down back as much. Hence the reason why supersonic aircraft are so pointy, by the way. That is basically the reason. They also split like air brakes. Okay, I was gonna ask about that, because it needs to have the ability to do that at least. As far as how big the control surfaces are for how big the plane is, this might be adequate, especially at higher speeds. At slower speeds, I would expect the control authority of these very honestly kind of small ailerons to not really be as effective. But this thing isn't designed to go slow now, is it? Aerodynamics of a fish. I mean, they're pretty aerodynamic, honestly, for the most part. But yeah. And so we got a little cross section here. So what do we got here? Space superiority fighter. Airplane. So we got a length of 18.5. What the hell is SM? I think that just means meters. The fuck is a meter? 5.5 meters, I guess, or space meters. Maximum speed, Mach 4.2 in atmosphere. I'll talk about it in a second. I have a lot to say. Engine, got a plasma engine with a G diffuser. This is an interesting concept I want to talk about briefly. Armament, we got laser cannons and a smart bomb launcher. All right, and I think this blurb here is actually pretty important. So, developed by what the hell? Okay, it's a little small for me to read. Developed by Airspace Dynamics Company Limited, both of them incorporated, under exclusive contract. Is it actually exclusive to Star Fox? Like Star Fox, like that team is the only one using this? That's interesting. Because of the complexity of its components, most notably the G diffuser system, the R-Wing is not yet slated for full production. 4 prototypes have been made available to Star Fox team for flight and combat testing. Man, giving your first customer the prototype to do the testing for them, I feel like, who's paying for this? Who the hell is paying for this? I don't know what metric is either. The G diffusers are the space magic. Yeah, so I was gonna say, first things first, swing wings. You'll notice, perhaps, that swing wings were a technology that was incorporated into certain Cold War aircraft, most notably the F-14 Tomcat, shout out to Cat 14 BT, as well as some other Russian designs and the B-1 Lancer and stuff like that. So, why swing wings? Well, the reason why swing wings, the ability for your wings to fold backwards and fold forward like so, the reason why those existed to begin with is to allow the aircraft to fly efficiently in 2 regimes, high speed and low speed. And the RVR, of course. The reason why the swing wing was invented was essentially mainly to allow, let's take the Tomcat for instance, because that's, everybody knows what that looks like, I hope. The Tomcat is designed to be a supersonic interceptor that flies faster than an F-4 Phantom and is able to launch its missiles and Russian bombers and then turn around and land on an aircraft carrier. In order to fly really, really fast, you can't really afford to have your wings splayed out too much like this, because you're gonna you're just gonna have so much more drag. There's like so many more considerations for, you need such a powerful engine to make this work, not to mention the structural rigidity of the bending moment of your aircraft wings when it's going that fast. It is better when you're going fast to put your wings backwards for controllability purposes, for speed purposes, for efficiency purposes. But you can't have it super far back all the time like a delta wing fighter, because you also have to go slow enough to land on an aircraft carrier, which is where putting your wings out will give you more roll authority, more stability on the slow speed landing phase. When it comes to this type of aircraft, my first question would be, how slow does this thing need to go? What is the actual design speed for this thing? I assume this would have to be able to fly slowly to land on that Star Fox special carrier ship thing, right? I assume that's the reason. Make the engine bigger, you say. There's a reason why people don't do that. Welcome back, by the way. Because it's mainly because it's awesome. High key, Star Fox 64 was created when the F-14 was still, actually being flown. And people saw that and were like, that's a cool fucking plane. And honestly, for real though. But the reason why you don't see swing wings even nowadays is for, and this will be a very common theme throughout all of the aircraft I'm talking about today. The reason why swing wings don't exist today, one of the main reasons, is weight. The mechanism for incorporating a swing wing design into a design is typically so damn heavy and so maintenance heavy that any sort of operational efficiency you get from having a swing wing, the ability to change the geometry of your wings in flight, usually does not outweigh the performance gain. It worked for the Tomcat because it was able to do its job just fine, and at the time they couldn't find a better way to do it because engines were only so powerful. But in the vast future of wherever this comes from, I would expect a different technology to make so that maybe okay, so this is actually an interesting point. I'm not going to say why things are just unrealistic. I'll say why things can be realistic. And this is aided by the fact that there's this supposed G diffuser system. When I hear the term G diffuser, first of all, diffuser basically means to spread out, make it less on a single point. So essentially, this is spreading out the G's that this aircraft experiences in flight, I guess. Now, what does this mean for swing wings? Well, what this means is that if you're able to implement this G diffuser into the mechanism for the wings, that means you can make it lighter because it's not taking as much load on the wings when you're pulling on a high G turn, right? Because you're able to do that, maybe you can make the argument that the actual mechanism for controlling the sweep of these wings are not so fragile, despite the fact that would weigh so less. Therefore, you can afford to have changing geometry into your wing, but not impact the overall weight of this aircraft too much. And therefore, maybe this is actually more realistic than I think. And I was gonna say, yes, the maintenance nightmare. You'll still have to deal with maintenance. You are still dealing with extra moving parts on an airplane that you perhaps don't necessarily need to have to deal with most of the time. But hey, if the performance gain, the benefits you get from this is not outweighed by the extra weight and extra maintenance time you need to have this technology on your aircraft, it could be just what you need for your aircraft to complete the mission, right? So, Slippy's a great mechanic. He'll figure something out. Yeah, he just doesn't sleep, bro. Yeah, fuck you, Slippy. Fix my space plane laser thing. Yeah, and I guess another thing I wanted to say for the engine. So, I'm kind of going down one hell of a thing for this one. We'll see how long it takes me to get through this. Expected also reduces the G's on the pilot, but I'm not sure if that's canon. I would assume that's what was intended for this aircraft. But the main point is that the pilot isn't the only thing up in the air with this thing. The pilot is also up in the air or the aircraft itself is up. The aircraft structure is there. There's a reason why the F-16 being touted as pulling up to 9 Gs is so iconic, because most aircraft around that time were not designed to pull more than that many Gs. You know why? Because in order to make a beefy enough structure to make the aircraft pull 9 Gs, it would need such powerful engines, such beefy structure, and weigh so much that you might have performance decrements in other places. So I'm going to talk about weight a lot. At the end of the day, aircraft are designed to fly, but in order to fly, it needs to produce enough lift by forward momentum and thrust, and lift produced by the wings to counteract the weight of the thing. The heavier your airplane is, the less performance, we'll call it, you would get versus if the plane was lighter. You'll be able to pull less G's because you'll have more load factor on the wings. You know, for every reaction, there's an opposite reaction and all that. If your aircraft weighs so much that pulling 9 G's takes the loads of the wings from 11,000 pounds of the total aircraft in normal flight to 11 times 9, 99,000 pounds, your structure has to be able to withstand that. And throughout history, it's been kind of tough to make aircraft structures out of light enough materials, but strong enough materials to enable that. But now, it looks like if there's this G diffuser, it sounds like it is essentially lessening the real loads that that this aircraft experiences in flight. How it does it, I don't fucking know. It's experimental, guys. It totally works. Trust me, bro. Don't worry. But hopefully you can see the VODs for those of you who aren't able to stay out for the entire time. It's from the year 20XX in some other distant planet as well, for that matter. Speaking of planets, Mach 4.2 in atmosphere. Do you guys know what Mach is? By the way, if you're making a submission right now, I'm not going to look at it tonight. There's enough for me to talk about tonight. I see someone posting there. If you're making a submission right now, I'm not looking at it. Sorry. I was going to say yes. Which atmosphere? Mach 1 equals speed of sound. Yes, but Mach 1 is a different actual. How fast you're. It's a different. Okay, let's put it this way. Mach 1 is the speed of sound. The speed of sound changes based off of the conditions you're in. So, what does that mean? Let me go ahead and make sure I don't dox myself by bringing this up. Okay, cool. So, we're gonna type this in then. We're just gonna type in Mach. What? It is German for do. Anyways, Mach number. We're bringing up Wikipedia for y'all. So, Mach is basically the ratio of how fast you're going, the local flow velocity we'll call, and the actual speed of sound. So, what is the speed of sound dependent on? Well, thank you, Wikipedia, for bringing this up so I don't have to bring it up. Let's see if I can find it, actually. Oh my fucking gosh. Yeah, so this is, actually kind of bullshit. What the fuck? One second. I'm gonna find the exact thing. There's an actual. We're looking at equations today, baby. Yes, sir. We're looking at actual equations today. Goodness gracious. So yeah, a coronary. There we go. It's supposedly Earth-like, which that helps, but there's also other things to consider. So the actual speed of sound for a given altitude, and specifically when we're talking about altitude, we care more about temperature because the actual speed of sound is determined by, in this case, your ratio of specific heat, which for air, the air that we breathe is 1.4. If you're in a different gas, that'll be different. Your specific gas constant for air, which is, what was that, like 1.225? No. 17, 16 pound force per slug per Rankine or whatever. Yeah, that. It's this is dependent on the type of fluid you're flying through as well, whether it's air, nitrogen heavy, oxygen heavy, whatever, and the actual temperature. The actual temperature of, you know, the air. So much of this is so dependent on what you're flying through and how high you're flying, how cold is it, and all this other stuff that whenever someone just blindly says, this thing can go Mach 2, this thing can go Mach 3, 4, 100, whatever, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Because, like, that kind of goes out the window especially if your aircraft can go into space. Like, also, where does the atmosphere stop, right? It is easy to get to, like, Mach 100 when you're, like, you know, 200, 300,000 feet up in the air. Because, like, I mean, it's really freaking cold. It is really freaking cold up there. So the speed of sound actually is super slow compared to your actual speed that you're going. But it becomes like nonsensical at that point. Mr. Talon, would Mach number values be different than if a plane were to be able to fly in the atmosphere of different planets? Correct. For a given speed that an aircraft is flying, and speed in reference to what, right? We'll talk about airspeed for now. For a different airspeed, for different types of air, I guess, the Mach number will be different based off of the properties of the air that is flying. Like now do Venom, exactly. Like what is the atmosphere of Venom? Because I know that's like a corrosive planet or whatever, everything's volcanoes, I don't know. But also what changes in addition to the properties of the air is how much drag that air imparts on the aircraft itself. If you're flying through less dense gas, you have less drag, less dynamic pressure and all that. So there's so much like going on when we're talking about Mach that it really has to be determined what is the condition that you're flying Mach. If you're flying Mach 1 at the ground, you could be very well flying the same speed as Mach 3.3 up at 70,000 feet because you're traveling the same speed. Now, you're probably not going that fast because air is much denser at the ground at sea level than it is at 70,000 feet, whatever. But yeah. Should we measure it at sea level or something for consistency? Probably not. The reason why is because you probably can't get to Mach 3.3 at sea level. More likely than not, whenever anybody mentions the top speed in Mach for an aircraft, that's usually at the service ceiling / the design cruise altitude of the airplane. An airliner, like let's say a bigger airliner, a Boeing 777, is designed to fly at Mach 0.84. So that's 84% the speed of sound, but it can only do that at like above 30,000 feet. And for any given weight, if it's like damn near empty, you could expect to, it's designed to go that fast. Mach 0.84, whatever that is determined at the design altitude. But because of that, there's no reason for them to be consistent. Because an airliner or airline would care less about how fast the thing goes, so much as how much fuel does it burn. It doesn't matter how long it stays up at that condition. They just want to know how long does it have to stay up that condition for them to complete the mission. For something like an R-wing, Mach 4.2 in atmosphere is like where in the atmosphere? Are we talking about like near the edge of space? Are we talking about sea level? If you go Mach 4.2 at sea level, assuming the very similar properties of air to this planet, that's really fucking fast. In which case, this G diffuser would probably be very helpful. Interesting, but spaceplane doesn't have a service ceiling, so that's the thing, right? That's why, unfortunately, this number here is kind of nonsensical to me, because it doesn't say what is the service ceiling, because it could go to space. That's where it kind of breaks down, and that's kind of the issue. Why, whenever someone brings up Mach, I'm like, do you know what you're talking about? Do you know what you're talking about? Only airline that cared that much about airspeed was British Airways before they decommissioned Concorde. Yeah, and that was more of an economic reasoning. I don't want to go into that right now because we're not talking about the Concorde today. I've seen some books where they have top speed measured against the service ceiling of the aircraft, and also speeds for the aircraft at sea level as well. And that is very good because they will be different. They will be vastly different, and also depends on how hot is the day. You'll go a little faster at sea level. Let me think about this actually. There's a few reasons why you go faster at sea level on a colder day versus a hotter day, and it actually has more to do with thrust. And the hotter the day is, the less thrust your engines can produce for a given power setting. But the air is also less dense, you get less lift. I could go, this is what I said I didn't want to do. I didn't want to go down this crazy rabbit hole because we have a shit ton of submissions. I didn't actually count how many submissions we have, but we have a lot. And I've spent like 30 minutes on this one. Holy shit. All right. Also, I was going Sirius 140. I saw you first time chatter. I think the real magic of the G diffuser is shown when you hit the brakes in the free roam missions of SF Assault, Star Fox Assault, where the R-Wing literally just comes to a dead stop in midair. Yeah, that's like crashing. Off-track Talon goes low. I was gonna say, there's a lot I can talk about here. Mach where, I see, exactly. Mach where is what it comes to. How's it going, Hanasuki, by the way? Hope you're doing well. So yeah, like when it comes to the design of an aircraft and how fast its design speed is meant to go, unfortunately, you can't boil it down to a single Mach number because that depends, what is the conditions that you tested this at? The top speed of an airplane depends on the type of day it is. Like it actually does depend. If it's super stormy, never mind the turbulence, you might be able to go a little bit faster because you might get more thrust out of it. But if it's super hot and you're super low to the ground, you're not going to be going anywhere near your rated thing. So it's how it goes. We were talking about the airplanes. This is a plane review. Oh no, I can only clap when I'm going to the next plane, which at this point I might as well. So basically there's so many factors to determine what the top Mach speed is. Got it. Exactly. And I think that's the main thing I wanted to get with that crazy long discussion. Yeah, it's there's quite a bit. That's why I never mentioned the G diffuser's too much space magic. Yeah, it's the G diffuser is a very, honestly, I'm really glad that they mentioned this as a type of technology that it has, because it makes this plane in a way more feasible, because it essentially says, yeah, the amount of load factor you get would require a structure to be able to handle this crazy amount of load of like 11, 20 Gs, whatever. But if we're able to essentially lower the amount of load factor the structure of this aircraft sees, well, doing a 20G turn will feel like doing a 9G turn. So you only need to design a 9G airplane, which this thing very well could be, right? So yeah, no such thing as too much space magic. There's always so much thing as too much space magic. But yeah, so that's I think that's gonna be it for my R-Wing review. I give it a, should I give it a rating? Let's see here. I give it a, fuck it, I'll give it a 4 out of 5 for furries. Definitely somewhat realistic with space magic. There we go, 4 out of 5 furries, gotcha. Anyways, next plane. Rate the planes, there we go. All right, Ascendant, I see what you posted. This is honestly, this is the thing that brought up the entire conversation of doing the stream. Noise rating. Hey, that's what Star Fox was. It's about furries, bro. Like, what do you want me to say? It's literally, okay, anyways, next plane. We're doing whatever a forward swept wing Raptor is. So, there's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot to say about this. So, why would anybody make a forward swept wing aircraft? There are a few reasons why forward swept wings would be more advantageous to have versus, straight wings or swept backwards wings. But this is a very common trope you see in a lot of sci-fi aircraft, especially ones that were created in the 80s and forward. You still want one. Everybody wants a Raptor, don't we all? But the reason why forward swept wings are beneficial, there's a few reasons. One of them has to do with the controllability of the aircraft at super high angles of attack. Do I have to explain what angle of attack is? I think I do. Fuck. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna do this. So angle of attack is not how steep you're approaching a target on the ground is. It actually has Are you kidding me? It has everything to do. Why are you on this side? Son of a bitch. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Has everything to do with the relative angle of your wing to the wind. Your wind is coming this way, right? But your aircraft is pointed up this way. That angle between the wind, the relative wind, and your wing is your angle of attack. We're learning physics. Oh, dude, I'm trying my best not to go down a rabbit hole of telling everybody all about the fundamentals of flight, because I kind of want to, but we are going to be here all fucking night if we do this. If you want to ask why I'm building forward swept wing aircraft, ask the Sukhoi Design Bureau when making the Barracuda base. That's what I'm getting at. So, but this is going to be exactly what I'm going to be talking about it. So, we'll talk about it this way. At higher angles of attack, a wing will produce more lift in a fairly linear fashion, by the way. It's kind of interesting how that works. But for a given angle of attack, you will have a given amount of lift. But if you want to say climb faster or turn tighter, you will increase the angle of attack relative to the wind to, get more lift and therefore get more change in direction for you. Stream's delayed. We can do it again after everyone takes all the required physics. Oh my god, yeah. I have no choice. You're a liberal arts major, don't hurt my brain. I'm trying my best. Unfortunately, I'm gonna say a lot of stuff that might go over everybody's heads, but I'm gonna try my best to explain it in layman's terms if I can. So basically, should I bring up PowerPoint? I'm bringing PowerPoint. I'm bringing up PowerPoint for this, guys. Okay. This is already becoming a lot more complex of a stream than I imagined it to be, but that's okay because. Can I use this? I think I can. Okay, this is perfect. All right, I'm gonna show you guys what I'm looking at. Plane 2D. Okay. This is gonna be so shitty. This is gonna be so shitty, but I just want you to know that I am trying my hardest. So we're gonna copy this and then we're gonna bring a PowerPoint. Okay. Yes, it works. All right. Don't mind what's on here. This is me. This is behind the scenes of shit that I do for my streaming stuff. Dr. Minovsky, who the hell is that? I'm Dr. Talon, thank you. I'm actually not a doctor. I don't have a doctorate. I have a master's though. I will always say that. Okay, I want the plane pointing this way. To do that, I need to flip. Vertical. Nope. Wrong one. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna do this. And you see, people use Microsoft Paint. I don't use Paint. I use fucking whatever this is. PowerPoint. All right. Make it as vertical as, or horizontal as I can. Perfect. So came here knowing I was going to barely understand a thing. Dear lecture. Oh my fucking god. I'm not a professor. Stay major reporting in. Keep using these analytic terms and math. I've been trying so badly to find fun in air combat games. Oh my god. Yeah, I feel that, yo. So when it comes to this, this is such a boofed plane, but hey man, it works. So the angle of attack right now, let's say that the direction the plane is traveling is this way, that your plane is flying this way. Okay, so that means the relative air is going into the plane this way. There's going to be a lot of like flipping and going back and forth and stuff, but trust me, this works. Right now this plane is producing an angle, or producing just enough lift to keep it up in flight for its given weight, which by the way, the angle of attack needs to change for depending on how much lift you need. So in this case, at 0 degrees, you will get some amount of lift. Let's just assume that for now, this aircraft is producing enough lift to keep it up. If the aircraft wants to, ascend, the aircraft essentially has to increase its angle of attack so that, and now you're no longer at 0 degrees. Let's say you're at like 5 degrees. Is this 5 degrees? Yeah, let's say you're at 5 degrees now. Now, your aircraft is producing even more lift, so it has the ability to, fly upwards. That's more or less how airplanes fly. Airplanes don't like, swish through the air like a fish or anything. It's all about changing angles. Now, something you'll notice, I know I skipped over a lot, but hey, something you'll notice is that at a certain point, and I'm still talking about this, by the way, I'm still talking about this, trust me, just stay with me. At some point, your angle of attack gets so high that you stop producing a lot of lift. As a matter of fact, your lift actually decreases sharply right after. So about like, 10, 15 degrees, is that 10, 15 degrees? Maybe. Your aircraft is producing the maximum amount of lift. However, anything past that, on this graph, you'll see it loses lift. Well, why does it actually lose lift at this point? Because it's something called flow separation. Flow separation is, this is gonna be so fucking stupid. Separation, this is how I do it live, baby. Yeah, flow separation is basically, the air is no longer attached to your wing. I'm moving out the way for you. This is what the airplane should look, or this is what the wing airflow over the wing should look like at, lower angles of attack. But at higher angles of attack, now all this flow is no longer attached to your wings. This is called a stall. I don't know if you guys, how familiar you guys are with aeronautical terms, but there's a certain thing called a stall speed of an airplane. Basically, that is the speed at which, at the maximum angle of attack for an airplane, that anything past that and anything slower than that, the air will separate and your airplane will fall out of the air. Like Maverick and Goose, that was a compressor stall. There's a difference. I'm not going to talk about that because this is going to be kind of crazy. So basically what happens is that a super high angle of attack, you lose airflow over the wing. And if you don't have any airflow over the wing, you're going to fall out of the air. Unfortunately, that is just how physics works. And we're talking about natural stall. That is correct. We're not talking about anything more further than that because we're going to be here forever. Stick shaker warnings in commercial aircraft. In commercial aircraft, the stick will no shit like start shaking. Mostly in Boeing aircraft. I don't know about Airbus because it probably has a different thing because fly-by-wire. We're not talking about that. But for most aircraft, when you stall, you lose airflow and you are no longer flying. You are now a rock. You want to learn about compressor stall though? Some other time. Compressor stall, oh my god, I have to talk about propulsion. We're not on this plane, not on this plane. But okay, thank you, Ascendant. It's essentially when the engines lose airflow at super high angles of attack, but we're not going into detail right now. So, you're indeed falling with very little style. Normally, when you're falling like that, depending on how bad your stall is, a lot of airplanes are actually kind of designed to kind of fix themselves. You fixed your stall because, let's say now, you're falling out of the air. Now your angle of attack looks like this, so your airplane is flying like this. Normally, airplanes are designed such that when this happens and you're no longer producing enough lift, that means, technically speaking, you won't have enough airflow over the tail surfaces to actually right the ship, so to speak. But most airplanes are designed so that when this happens, it'll automatically right itself. It'll, like, you know, kind of wobble in air a little bit, but now your angle of attack is closer to 0. Basically, this right here, this situation right here where you're going down, but you're pointing into the wind, is essentially the same aerodynamically as when you're flying straight and level. So now your angle of attack is over here, and now you do have controllability. So that's how most airplanes stall. That was 10 minutes of talking about stalling to talk about why forward swept wings. The reason why forward swept wings, now to bring it all around, is that this allows for controllability and less flow separation at higher angles of attack. Basically, let's pretend that this has forward swept wings. Normally, if it didn't have forward swept wings, it would stall at this angle. But with a forward swept wing, you can go even higher. Even though you won't be producing lift, you'll still have enough wind, enough airflow over the ailerons. Like, these are where your control surfaces are for your, you know, turning left and right, or rolling left and right rather. There'll still be airflow here because more often than not, for a forward swept wing, the aircraft will stall at the wing root first. So you still have the ability to turn if your ailerons are located at the wing tips with a forward swept wing, which allows crazy ass maneuvers. This is kind of where super maneuverability kind of got really, you know, researched with the SU-47 and the X-29, I believe it was. It allows you the super high angles of attack and controllability at these stupid angles of attack. So, why is this not a good idea? It has something to do with this, my dear viewer. How much does an F-22 cost? Let's ask Google. How much F-22 costs? F-22 cost. I'm gonna go shopping, dude. What the fuck? No. How much? What is it? $350 million per aircraft. Goddamn. 100 million, 200. No, it's $350 million. Keep it. Those are rookie numbers. Pump them up, baby. Okay, I will say they were supposed to be estimated at 138 million or something. The cost of a fighter gets less the more you build, in general. As a rule of thumb, the more aircraft you build, the cheaper it'll be. But at least at some point, it was $350 million fucking dollars. Yeah, that's a lot of money for a single airplane. You got 57 bucks. Unfortunately, I don't think you can buy one of these in real life. Your tax dollars going into that. Yes, sir. How's it going, Adrian? Welcome in. Would have something to do with how much stress it puts on the wings. That's part of it too, actually. Am I gonna talk about aerodynamic flutter? I think I have to talk about aerodynamic flutter. All right, Ascendant, I'm giving your plane a fucking hour, dude. Not a full hour, because I do have to get through as many as I possibly can. But part of it is the amount of stress you see on the wings of the aircraft. But one of the main contributing factors, which also plays into how much stress goes into the wings of the aircraft, is how much this damn thing costs. In general, it is cheaper. I know this sounds crazy. In general, it is cheaper if you're trying to, if you want an airplane to do a completely different mission than what it was originally designed for, unless that mission is super similar enough to where the current capabilities of the airplane can already do it for the most part, you're gonna want to design a whole ass new airplane. Because the design, the amount of consideration that goes into changing the actual configuration of the wings in a pre-existing aircraft, there's so many things this affects that, like, it is borderline, you might as well make the new airplane. So compared to X-29 was 87 million, and that was in the 80s. So that has actually nothing to do with it because X-planes are not... That was the budget of the program, not so much of the aircraft. Because you can, well, if you were the United States Air Force specifically, only the US Air Force, by the way, you can procure an F-22 for whatever the price was set, like 350 million, 139 million, whatever. You cannot buy an X-29 because that is a NASA project. NASA doesn't create commercially sold airplanes. It creates one-off technology demonstrators. So you cannot buy an X-29, I'm sorry to say. Even, like, nobody could buy an X-29. All that matters is who does NASA want to give the plane to when they're done using it for research. They do not get a military discount. Oh, I'm not talking about military procurement right now. I'm gonna wait until another plane comes up to talk about military procurement because that's another fucking thing. Anyways. This is basically, this plane wouldn't exist because it would cost so much to develop an aircraft based off of the F-22 platform to perform with any modicum of performance gain using the F-22. Stealth is also a thing, by the way. I would not expect this plane to be particularly stealthy. As far as why, I'll go into it some other time. There's too much to talk about stealth. There's way too much to talk about for stealth. Oh my fucking god. If we could submit real aircraft, let me hide this. If you submit a real aircraft, I would have submitted the XF5U for sure. Hey, next time, that's what it's all about. If you ask why I think the King Raptor has force swept wings of the mod, was literally a design choice. In the mod, the Air Force General was the forward, in the mod, only the Air Force General has a forward wing Raptor. Most likely the devs wanted to make the players go, yeah, of course his planes are different because, you know, Air Force General. And I'll be honest, rule of cool. That's the reason somebody made this, is because it looks cool. I think this looks pretty fucking cool, not gonna lie. But when it comes to the feasibility of this aircraft existing in real life, unfortunately, no. To design a one-off for a single general, dude, I'm just trying to think of like, how powerful do you need to be? How much money do you need to completely fund the development and production of a one-off aircraft that is based off of the F-22 chassis? Let's put it into perspective. What was the actual program cost for the F-22? Because that's essentially how much you're going to spend. A single F-22 might have been $350 million, but the actual money spent on the program to develop it, I think we're talking about $44.3 billion. This general is a fucking billionaire if he is able to fund the development and production of this. With a big B. God damn. Worth it to intimidate the enemy. Except for the fact that in order to make it that good, and even better than an F-22 Raptor, is it really worth $44 billion with a B? Like, we're talking about Jeff Bezos money, and even he wouldn't fund this type of development. Yeah, that's the money of some GTA I was gonna say, man. Do your taxes right or do them wrong, then you might actually be able to afford this. Yeah, we're talking about monies in the billions, and to redesign a Raptor, maybe even trillions of dollars to make this thing work in reality. So yeah, because of that, unfortunately, force wing Raptor not gonna be a thing. So wow, I spent a long time talking about this. Anyway, next plane. How many do we have, by the way? If there's a mod in chat, can you tell me how many I actually have to do tonight? Because I just went through 2, and it's been almost an hour. Fuck me. Okay. This looks like a spaceship. I have less to talk about. I might have a decent amount of stuff to talk about. Fuck! Ugh. More than one. No shit. Okay, next plane. The FFX-7 core fighter from Mobile Suit Gundam. Hell yeah, I need to get more into Gundam, if anything. It can fly both in space and in atmosphere, of course. So, I was gonna say, max speed. At least you gave me... No Ranch, are you in chat? What the fuck is that? Who do you think you are? Who do you think I am, as a matter of fact? Do I look like someone who understands metric? Oh, fucking, okay, you know what? I'm doing this. All right, how fast did he say this thing goes? 3704. Jesus Christ. I still don't know what that means. How fast is 2,300 miles per hour? Like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean, guys? Are there 33 submissions? No fucking way. Oh my god, I have to really... It's been an hour, guys. I need to go faster. Not speed run per se. What a mega miles per hour. Jesus Christ. Aren't you required to understand metric in your line of work? So, like, actually? Not really. For certain things I do, I understand metric. This is the joke. But in general, for the United States aviation industry, and this is gonna blow some of your guys' mind, specifically for aviation, for airplanes, we use imperial. Even worse than that, we don't use miles per hour, we use knots. How fast is a knot? I'm not gonna tell you. Jesus Christ. A knot and a mile per hour are similar, but one knot is slightly faster than 1 mile per hour. So, having said that, in the space industry, it's all metric. If you're working on space stuff, like if you work for SpaceX, if you work for NASA, if you work for Blue Origin, you're gonna use metric. But for the airline industry, for the US military, we use pounds. Pounds. Knots, whatever the fuck that means. If you still play Warthog, you'll notice that I use knots for my unit of speed. So it was developed as a prototype escape pod. It's an escape pod combining node for a Gundam. Oh, interesting. Being tied to the real robot genre, I can't imagine the tolerances this thing would have to withstand considering it's at... Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah. Insane. Get pounded into the ground, if only. What the fuck is a Kelvin? I think one of my coworkers' name is Kelvin. I think his name is Calvin, actually. Now, hold on now. The military uses both measurements to a certain degree. Certain things. Now, are we talking about US military? US customary, even better. So yeah, complete bullshit anyways. But this thing, okay, we're talking about a Gundam fighter thing. Space plane, but also flies in atmosphere. I appreciate the fact that you can literally see the control surfaces, so it is designed to fly in atmosphere, but it's also an airplane. Wait, I never rated this one. Fuck. Okay, going back, Force of Twin Reactor, I give it 1 out of $44 billion in realism. Not real. Next plane. Okay, there we go. Fuck. When we're talking about this thing, it's a space plane. Can this thing fly from the ground to space? Is what I want to know. Can this thing fly? Can this thing take off like a normal airplane and fly itself into space? Is what I want to know. It cannot. Okay, I'm glad that you put that up because that is an important thing to know. This is designed not necessarily... It's more designed like a space shuttle in a sense where it sounds like it can launch in space, but it flies into the atmosphere. That makes this design a lot more realistic, believe it or not. Because the amount of thrust the engine needs to produce to be able to lift off from the ground and fly aerodynamically, especially with super small ass wings. Like, these are really small wings for something that is this small, but it has to go super fast to get into space. If it had to do that, it would need insanely powerful engines, which, I mean, there's like 6 of them. 2 of them are bigger than the others, which is like, why though? But that's a different issue. Different sizings of engines, that's another thing. It's more complex than it perhaps needs to be. But the fact of the matter is, this thing acts as a space shuttle. It kind of looks like a space shuttle in a way, right? You have like your smaller, stubbier wings and kind of a compact, bulky frame. It's also meant to be like a mobile suit control center thing or whatever. So I say this is actually surprisingly realistic, especially for like how simple the design looks. As a matter of fact, the more simple a design is, in reality, high key, the more realistic it's going to be. As an engineer, we have to determine not only the best design to make in order for an aircraft to complete this mission, we also need to make it cost effective. And one way to balloon the cost of an aircraft is make it more complex. So because this thing is so simple, assuming the whole mobile suit integration thing is not crazy, actually I think this is kind of realistic. So because of that, I'm going to give this, let's see, transform into the torso of a gun. Exactly. So that's where things might get crazy. If you hadn't told me that, I'd be like, this is realistic. But now that you told me that it is transforms into the torso part of a Gundam, I'm like, So not only does it need to have, okay, now you're making me think about this. You are making me really think about this. Fuck. Yeah, you shouldn't have said that. If this is supposed to transform into the torso of a Gundam, I assume there's other systems it needs to have to integrate into the Gundam. It can't just be an airplane. It has to be a command and control center for a Neuralink fucking robot. Yeah, so like, so I could tell that it like, yeah, it clearly it folds, but also folding wings. Okay, sure, it's fine. This thing probably doesn't have crazy performance. I don't expect this to be like a super high performing fighter. But in order to integrate into a fucking robot, the reason why suddenly this thing might not work anymore is how much of the robot relies on this for control. If this is just the inceptors of it, if this is literally just a place for the human to be, all it needs is like controls for the cockpit, this is probably still just fine. If this has to have like a processing center to like actually process and control a Gundam, suddenly I don't think this is going to be useful or feasible. And I think I was so close to submitting G1 Starscream in plane mode. Hey, you could have if you wanted to. I could have talked about it. Not one of us submitted Starscream. I was gonna say that's crazy. To be honest, this thing only has 2 unguided rockets and a pair of Vulcans in the nose. I would say, why though? Why does this thing have armament if it's meant to mainly be a control center? I'm sorry, this is shooting it in the foot. Oh no. I was gonna say no one put a Starscream. Interesting. If it dogfights too, fuck. Okay. This thing has folding wings and it needs to be able to dogfight. In space, probably fine because no one can hear you screaming in space and there's no fucking air to go through. In atmosphere, I would not expect this thing to be a particularly good fighter. This thing needs to be going so fucking fast that using guns is gonna be how? Missiles, I guess you can use the missile if it's designed to go faster than your freaking plane, but the fact that the wings fold means this is gonna be a structural weak point at the hinges of the wings. So that has to be beefed the fuck up to make it a dogfighter. Unfortunately, this would be the F-104 in the atmosphere. It would have to be, honestly. Like, this thing would have to fly like an F-104 with super stubby wings, super fast, but not maneuverable. Self-defense in case it can't get away. High key, if you can't get away in this thing, in something that looks like it's designed to go this fast, you'd have to really play with the laws of physics to say, I can actually turn on a dime on this thing. I'm like, the hell you can't. No, I don't buy that, unfortunately. I don't think this is going to be that realistic. Anyways, because this thing seems like it's designed to do too many things and has certain considerations that make it not useful. Like, you wouldn't want this thing to dogfight. You just want this thing to be an escape pod, honestly. Yeah, this isn't as realistic as I thought it was. If it was only designed to be an escape pod, this thing would have been perfectly great. If you didn't tell me about the missiles and the guns and the fact that it has to dogfight, this thing would be perfectly feasible. But because it has to do that too, and has to, I assume it's good at it. I assume it's good at it. Then it's like, I don't think this is how a dogfighter would look like, even in Gundam. So unfortunately, I can't say that it's that realistic. I give it a I give it a 50 out of a 0080 Gundams out of 0080. Sure, there we go. Next, plane. All right, saying user difference in mission. Now we got this is what it all started with. Oh, it actually came with other stuff. I have to think of something. Gundam has more realistic dogfighting aircraft than that one. I was gonna say maybe, right? Speaking of dogfighting aircraft, this looks like a fucking dogfighter, dude. This is some fucking golden shit, bro. It's also a robot. Thank you to Norench by saying that you did not show me the fucking mecha version of this, because I know it turns into a mecha. The Y19, hell yeah, dude. This thing looks pretty cool, dude. Like, so there's nothing inherently unrealistic about this aircraft. It has a lot of design choices that you might see in modern day aircraft. As a matter of fact, this is the Morgan from Ace Combat. This is what the Morgan was based off of. Like, really. And the wing swing back. Okay, now you lost me. I'm just kidding. The whole thing swings basically because it's not just an airplane. It's also a robot. Like, it turns into a mecha, which so many considerations for that. I'm not gonna go too much into that. I'm just gonna assume that what we see is what we get, which is, and then I'll talk separately about the implications of making it transform into a robot and what that does to this airplane. I was gonna say, delve into the macro designs, they become progressively more sexy. Are you talking about the girls or the planes? Because the answer is yes. anyways, this is the forward swept wing air superiority fighter. Air breathing engines, very nice. Like literally, there's nothing in here that screams, this is not gonna be an effective dogfighter. Except, there's one thing in here that screams to me that this thing would not be able to control itself. It's these. This thing has no fucking lateral stability. There is like, okay. Do you like the full mech version of the YF-19 or the aircraft legs version? I honestly don't recall how the full mech version looks. But anyways, the VF and its competitor, the YF-21, were inspired by the design competition that gave us the F-22 and F-23. Yeah. So one thing here to notice is that an airplane, are we going to talk about aircraft controls? Yes, we are. We have to. Fuck. An airplane has to be able to control itself in 3 axes, 3 degrees of rotation. You have, like you see here. Oh, this is going to be so fucking borked, dude. Actually, let's see. I can make this work. Fuck, I can't make it work. Oh my god. Oh my god. We're really doing this, dude. I have to do this crap. All right. Don't look at my background. Actually, no, you don't need to look at my background. Here we go. Okay. Okay. We're doing this. We start doing this. All right. Copy and paste. This is gonna be so bored. So first of all, you're gonna see me do something I like to call Photoshop magic. Photoshop. This isn't even Photoshop, by the way. I'm gonna do some magic. Check this out. Oh my god. Like, you can be smarter than that, Photoshop, please. There we go. Good enough. This is good enough, I guess. Yeah, so I have no choice but to do this because we're talking about the controllability of aircraft. I noted that one thing that I noticed that this thing is probably not going to be very realistic. Do this too. By the way, I'm using PowerPoint 2013. This exists in PowerPoint 2013. The ability to remove the backgrounds of airplanes. Or airplanes, yeah, that too. But the backgrounds of images exist in PowerPoint, which is fucking awesome. Sick. And we'll do this too. Fuck it, close enough. If there's something here, it's fine. Okay, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want to see. Now, even in anime, is incredibly maneuverable, meaning it's very unstable. So, unstable in what axes? Most, in general, when you're talking about forward swept wings, or anything that has a super far aft, we'll call it center of pressure. I'm gonna say some shit you guys don't understand. I apologize. When it comes to aircraft that have a lot of, we'll call it aerodynamic surfaces towards the back of the plane, that means it's gonna be very unstable in pitch. This thing is gonna want to like flip around like super crazy. I have another thing for this, actually. Check this out. Okay, all right, check this out. I will have to switch things. You guys are not allowed to see what I'm looking at right now. This is going to be very interesting, but I think it's going to be worth your time to wait to see exactly what it is that I'm talking. I didn't put it up here, did I? I didn't put it up here. Fuck. Sorry. Apologize for my French, but I just realized something. Maybe I don't have the ability to show exactly what it is I'm trying to talk about. So, anyways, when you have an airplane that looks like this, that means it's going to be very maneuverable, but very unstable in pitch. As this thing is flying, it's going to want to flip around and essentially fly backwards because all of your center of gravity is aft of, or closer to aft of where your center of pressure is. And I guess we'll talk about this thing. I think this is what I had to search to find that one thing I was looking at. Okay, it was something based off of this. Okay, we're talking about dynamics, stability, and control now. I knew that this stream was gonna get fucking crazy, and I had a feeling I was not gonna get to close to any of the amount that I wanted to get through. But unfortunately, yeah, this is gonna be tough. So, no, that's not gonna be helpful. Fucking hell. Oh, actually, no, perfect. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Yes, copy image. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So, oh, disgusting. Now, this is how airplanes fly. Oh, this is gonna be how airplanes fly. Jesus Christ, I'm gonna be here forever. This airplane, you're upside down now. This airplane is gonna be most similar to this here, an unstable canard. At least you're setting precedent for similar notes on later submissions. Basically, yeah. I also have so many submissions. And ideally, I don't have to reiterate the same stuff I'm talking about here. So I hope you guys posted the same shit multiple times, basically, is what I'm saying. But this aircraft is going to be very unsimilar, or very similar to this unstable canard configuration. In order for an aircraft to be stable, we're going to look at the stable wing first. In order for an aircraft to be stable, you need your center of gravity to be forward of what we call the center of lift. The center of gravity right here is the point at which the aircraft rotates around. When this aircraft is flying and, you know, doing this angle of attack stuff, the center of gravity is going to be like right here, give or take. There we go. And I guess this works too, now that I think about it. Fuck yeah. Cool. And we're gonna do this. Perfect. Oh yeah, exactly what I wanted to see. So, oh, but now it's like, whatever. So basically, all of the weight of the aircraft can be balanced on through this point right here. The amount of weight is pointing this aircraft down. In order for this airplane to fly, the center of lift needs to be equal to this vector down here. And that is typically produced behind the center of gravity in order for this aircraft to be stable. And now, if you notice this, having a single lift vector going this way will create a moment arm that will kind of make this airplane want to do this. So in order to counteract that, for a normal aircraft with a tailplane in the back, there needs to be another amount of, oh shit. Fuck it, close enough. There needs to be another lift vector way over here to create a counteracting moment to make it so that this plane doesn't continue to point downwards. It needs to have a down moment at the tail wing to keep it, you know, basically balanced in flight. So going back to this, man, moment arms basically. So that's what this means for a stable winged aircraft. Now we're talking about canard. The center of gravity is going to be aft of the center of lift for an unstable canard. That means this thing will constantly want to be flipping backwards like this. It's going to have like this upward moment, this pitch up moment that makes it want to do this. So that means there needs to be some sort of control surfaces, and this is going to be very important for the Vipers. I think they're called Vipers later on. That's why these exist, these canards. This produces this downward force in front of the center of lift. Yeah, in front of the center of lift to basically counteract this thing from going down here, because now these canards are trying to force it to go down this way, if that makes sense. So this is typically what unstable means. When people say the aircraft is unstable, they're only talking about its tendency to do this. We call that longitudinal stability, because this is, you're rotating around the longitudinal axis of the plane. I'm not explaining more than that. When it comes to roll stability, the forward swept wings will help at high angles of attack to make it so that your airplane can still roll left and right. Because as we discussed earlier, your airplane is going to stall at the wing root because it has forward swept wings. Can you take medication? Yeah, it's called the stability augmentation system. This basically allows it at higher angles of attack. So when your airplane is like this, when your wing is stalled at the wing root, there'll still be airflow over the wing tips, so you can still, you know, roll. Now, that was 2 out of 3 axes. What about the third one? What about which direction you're heading? Oh my god, there's so much shit in the way. What about which direction you're heading? So, this aircraft has the ability to do this as well. To wiggle its ass left to right. That's where these come in. In order for the aircraft to be somewhat stable in, you know, the directional stability, so that it doesn't wiggle like crazy and will itself to a flat spin, it needs to have pretty effective rudders. Yaw. Got that yaw, dude. It needs to have good yaw stability to not essentially turn this thing into Maverick and Goose, flat spinning and crashing into the ocean. Because you definitely don't want that to happen in your airplane. Because, oh god, as you spin around this way, you're also most likely going to be simultaneously rolling around that way as well. It gets really messy when it comes to aircraft dynamics. But that is to say that I unfortunately do not think these... I said all this to say that these rudders are too small. All of this is saying the rudders are a little bit too small because there's no fucking way that these are big enough to produce the forces necessary to keep this thing stable. Let's look at the F-22 real quick. Hell, even this earlier submission. Look at how big the tail is for the F-22. This is about the size as a real F-22. It is that big for a reason. Unfortunately, this thing does not quite have that ability. I am rudder shaming. I have to rudder shame this. Cracking your neck on the canopy like Groose did. Pretty much, yeah. Is FSW less stable in yaw? What does FSW refer to? FSW? Are you referring to... I don't know what that means. Forward swept wing. Okay, gotcha. Not necessarily. Just because it's forward swept wing doesn't necessarily mean it's less stable in yaw, but it will affect your handling qualities and the flying qualities of this airplane. Oh, I'm getting into this right now. Okay. I really hope I'm able to go through a lot of these other submissions faster because this gives me so much to talk about. So, we're bringing back this vector. So let's say, for instance, I don't need this in the picture right now. So let's say, for instance, your airplane is flying this way. Oh, no, you're behind, aren't you? Okay. There we go. So let's say your airplane is flying this way. I wrote an essay. It's going to take a while. Oh, God. So if your aircraft is doing this, if your aircraft is flying this way, normally for an aircraft, when you... fuck. I need an actual back swept wing aircraft because this is a very important thing to... It's an important thing to talk about. Okay, we'll use this. Fuck it. Let's just duplicate this real quick. Oh my god, I'm talking about so much. Oh my god, I'm on submission like number 3 or something, or 4. God help me. Okay, let's say your aircraft is flying like this with a normal when your aircraft is yawing when your aircraft is yawing like this, and let's say that you're essentially drifting into the air. This is how aircraft fly, by the way. You drift into the air. You never like follow the actual direction of the air, you know. Good. Anyways, I feel like Tony needed to quickfire his reviews as this one won't turn well, this one will follow the sky, this one can maneuver really well, etc. Then we do a separate video about how planes work. Honestly, you probably should. That's not a bad idea. So I'll go ahead and just like talk about this real quick, and then we'll move on because I'm talking way too much about just this one aircraft. But it's very interesting. So let's say that your aircraft is drifting into the wind this way. When the wind hits this wing will produce more lift than this wing because this wing is so far swept back. Therefore, this aircraft is actually going to want to roll this way. Because there's more lift on this wing, there's less lift on this wing when this aircraft is yawing this way. Therefore, it turns that way. For a forward swept wing, it's opposite. The aircraft is going to this wing, but it's not seeing that much airflow. The air is going to this wing, seeing a lot more airflow. Therefore, this airplane wants to roll the opposite direction of the way that it's rolling. It's very sickening. As a pilot, this will make you sick as fuck. So, terrible inverse yaw characteristics. So, all that to say, forward swept wings don't have too much to do with the directional stability, so much as the roll tendencies of the airplane. You're actually, honestly, that's not a bad way to put it. You're essentially like riding a bike in reverse. Like you're riding a bike backwards. It's kind of weird. You don't, like this one, you lean into the turn. This one, you lean away from the turn. Yeah, very, very whack. Anyways, too small. And it's also a fucking robot. Therefore, I give this Macross 7 out of infinity. The next plane. Jesus Christ. I really feel bad for having to like blow through this, but we literally spent an hour and a half talking about 4 planes. Oh my fucking god, this 30? Anyways, I know I can't say that this is the most realistic only because, okay, it's definitely mostly realistic, except for the fact that it has jack all for directional stability, and also the fact that it turns into a robot means this airplane is probably much heavier than it looks. So yeah, I'll try to keep a simple assessment because I talked way too much. 7 out of infinity, that's basically 0. I was trying to make a funny joke out of it, but it didn't work. Anyways, next one. Okay, oh yeah, next plane. Aurora Alpha Bomber from the base game version of Command & Conquer, I think, General 0 Hour, designed as a supersonic bomber that's invulnerable when it's on attack run, but vulnerable and its speed is halved once it's completed its run. Huh? This is the first time I've heard something actually gets slower when it finishes its attack run because it got lighter. It definitely has to be for game balancing. Normally, when an airplane has a heavy-ass payload like bombs, it's not going to be very fast or maneuverable. But when it drops its bombs, it becomes a hell of a lot more fast and a hell of a lot more maneuverable. So that's unrealistic. It gets tired after running. Yeah, planes don't work like that. Planes are, yeah. Like literally planes perform better over time because they burn fuel and they get lighter. The lighter they get, the better it can actually perform. Also, yeah, unfortunately, this is a very small picture. Now, as far as like the design of the airplane is concerned, it looks perfectly feasible. Like, yeah, it's a Delta Wing. I expect it to be a supersonic aircraft of some sort. The fact that it's a bomber, okay, perfect. I assume there's like a payload section underneath it. The fact that it goes slower when it drops its payload is the opposite of what it would be in real life. Therefore, I give this a 1 out of 2 brain cells that have died in reading that sentence. So not that realistic for the operational, kind of realistic-ish for how the plane actually looks. There we go. That's the speed run. Next plane. I feel so bad having to do this, man. But as someone mentioned, I have no choice but to just like, there's so many. Look at where I am in the chat. Oh no. Okay, anyways, first up, all right, we got 3 submissions from Westy. I will only do 2 because first of all, that's not a MiG-31. That's what the fuck? That's not a, yeah, I know, this is something else. I'm only gonna be able to talk about these two Ace Combat planes, which is crazy. I've only seen the Ace Combat planes up till now. So first up, CFA 44 Nosferatu from Ace Combat 6. High key, this is pretty fucking realistic. Like, of all the planes, of all this, you know, fictional aircraft that Ace Combat has made, this is probably one of the more realistic ones. It's very conventional. It's a Delta Wing design. It has canards for, honestly, this is probably more for stability in the same way that that canards on like all these Su-27 derivatives are for. They're not for producing lift, they're for making sure it doesn't fucking stall at high angles of attack and is actually, you know, controllable. It also has thrust vectoring, 3D thrust vectoring in the back there. It's kind of hard to see from here, but that helps with even more maneuverability. It has, I would say, decently big enough. Honestly, these things could stand to be a little bit bigger. They still look a little bit undersized, not gonna lie. The fact that there's 2 of them helps it. Maybe the fact that they're also further away from each other. They can get away with honestly, yeah, maybe this is properly sized. I think these might be relatively properly sized. This is the most realistic airplane Ace Combat has made. Looks like an SR-72. And also, the fact that it has thrust vectoring is also helpful too. But you gotta be careful with thrust vectoring. What happens when one of the engines fails? I guess thrust vectoring will help to actually kind of counteract the asymmetric thrust. I'm not gonna talk about that right now because I put way too much time. I will say, because I know about this plane, I know that it has micro missile launchers. And you can also replace those with railguns. If you put micro missile launchers into the airplane, and it looks like a giant freaking box that pops up from this storage door and this storage door. If you put those on a plane, that would have so many implications for the range and the maneuverability of your airplane, just straight up. No one ever thought that, you know, Ace Combat has realistic flight controls, right? So unfortunately, when it comes to this thing being the best plane in the world kind of thing, that kind of hinders it from being so. You can afford macro missiles on this budget. Yeah, it went all through the design of the plane. If all you showed me was this plane and I didn't understand that there was, like, you know, trap doors that spring up micro missile launchers, this would be perfectly realistic, by far the most realistic planes that I've known. However, those are kind of a detriment to it. So it's going to be very heavy. Now, instead of being able to store something like, oh, I don't know, fuel in this area, you have to replace it with payload. Therefore, the range of this aircraft is significantly reduced. But it's still realistic. You know, I give this Ace Combat 6 out of 7 Ace Combats. Yeah, honestly, not too bad. This is actually kind of realistic, all things considered. It also doesn't have that stupid coffin getup, so we're fine. Anyways, decently realistic. Next, plane. It's a passing grade. C's get degrees. All right. I know how this plane flies because I played it in Ace Combat 7. There's a lot of bullshit going on here. There's a lot of bullshit. I will say, in this configuration, perfectly fine. It has its longitudinal, its roll, and its lateral stability. It looks like it has a pretty far aft center of gravity and a far aft center of pressure, so this is probably very maneuverable. I know it has thrust vectoring. The part that is kind of like, why did they do this, is why did they put an intake on top of the airplane? This is not a very good place to put an engine intake. And I'm gonna briefly talk about this, very briefly. Yes, let's use this. So, oh my god. So, notice that when airplanes fly, they typically do this to turn, to go up, to go faster, whatever. When your airplane is doing this, the air is kind of going over the airplane. Like, there's not that much air flowing into here. That means anything you put on top of this airplane is not going to see much airflow. Don't set up the timer, no. And that's also the reason why these tails are too small in this airplane, because there's like not that much air going here. These things have to be very big to get any amount of use at high angles of attack. This thing, there's no airflow going to be up here at high angles of attack. This thing's going to be ingesting jack all for this. It's basically going to be useless as an air intake. So like, that's actually kind of an unrealistic place to put this thing for a very high performance, high maneuverable fighter. And the fact that these things pivot is fucking stupid. I'm sorry, like, why? Oh my god. Ignore the fact, yeah, as the fact that it's also VTOL STOL is like, yeah, I'm just gonna conveniently ignore that fact. This thing has to be so fucking heavy. I'm like, oh my god, yeah. Anyways, place an engine intake where it gets the least amount of air, especially in stalls. Exactly, like, this intake is actually nonsensical, unfortunately. You would not put this here. You want to put this at the bottom because this thing is going to be, you know, doing that shit. I will say, it does depend. The only reason why this might not be a bad place to put it, now that someone mentioned the VTOL, STOL, is if this is a redundant air intake. Let's say this thing is landing on a very grassy area, and it's sucking, and it'd be normally sucking in all the air through these intakes. It would also suck in whatever's on the ground. If it lands on the ground, whatever's on the ground, like high grass, any bits of rubble, whatever, can easily get into this. If they wanted to make the assumption that when this thing is flying at 0 airspeed, so it is not traveling forward at all, there's no angle of attack because it's not flying into the wind, then they could make the argument that this thing's vertically landing or taking it off. You close these air intakes so it doesn't ingest anything from the ground, and it uses this air intake to suck in all the air and power the engines. That is the only reason why this air intake would be useful. Otherwise, it is dead weight. And because you design an aircraft to carry dead weight but also be a freaking air superiority fighter, not that realistic. Also, the fucking moving tail, I'm sorry, that's just dumb. Why? Anyways, I'll give this an Ace Combat X for cross this off the list out of 7 Ace Combats. I don't want to look at this no more. Next, plane. I was said I was not going to be savage on these. I guess now that I have to spend no more than a couple minutes on each submission, I have to be savage. I apologize ahead of time. Not really. I only kind of apologize. I honestly hate the moving tail as well. Yeah, it's like so much complexity for what reason? Like, and the reason is rule of cool. It does look cool to have all these moving parts on your airplanes. Kind of similar to how somebody mentioned, like when they saw the moving control surfaces on Star Fox 64, I'm like, that's cool as fuck. And then the designer of this plane was like, oh, I want to see that move shit too. Wait, how can we make this move even more? Oh my God. This would be a great toy to talk about, by the way. 2.5 minutes to talk about it. It took me 2.5 minutes just to talk about the air intake. Hey man, better than 30 minutes than talking about just this. That ain't too bad, honestly. Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. That is an improvement, kind of. Yes, rule of cool. It is definitely unnecessary, but it is rule of cool. People like moving parts. This would be an amazing Hasbro toy, is what I'm gonna say. Anyways, next plane. Type 0 Space Carrier Fighter, or colloquially known as the Cosmos Zero from Space Battleship Yamato 2199. Yes, Space Battleship, gotta love it. Never mind the fact that you turned the Yamato, a sunken ship, into a whatever. While yes, the space fighter designed like a conventional aircraft, they make use of conventional aircraft, and we do see it in air combat quite often. I also see rockets fly from the ground, which is an atmosphere, into space, but that doesn't necessarily make it. Okay. We'll see what I can say about this. It is armed 4 20mm pulse light. Why does a laser cannon have a caliber? It's well, is this a laser? I don't know. I don't know what that means. What the hell is a 20mm pulse cannon? 20mm is the inner diameter of a barrel. Is this not just like lasers? I don't get that. I have the model kit Shin 2, still gotta build it. Oh my God, it's gonna take forever. All those moving parts, bro. It's not really laser, it's just guns. So it is a gun. Okay. They call it pulse cannon, so I'm like, I hear pulse laser all the time. So if it's a gun, this makes sense. Also, 420s blaze it nice. Anyways, central nose mounted 50mm. Why? Yo, your space thing, right? Why are you shooting guns in space? And it's 50mm, bruh. That's kind of that's pretty big, bro. Multiple AAMs, air-to-air missiles, space-to-space missiles, actually. Contained within 2 pods, known how many, but it's estimated around 6 pods or 2 pods carrying 3 air-to-air missiles or space missiles, whatever. Okay. Well, it looks like a spaceship. Yeah, there's the fact that it uses guns in space, like, and not laser, like directed energy weapons, is kind of like, it'll work. It'll definitely be perfectly fine, but the amount of calculations needed to make a space projectile hit something when you're dealing with zero gravity and like multi-body. This is the part where I can't talk too much about it because now I'm getting out of my depth. But I guess it does have air intake, so it can fly in the plane in air, right? I guess. I do have to ask, what are these for? There's like so many probes on it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, technically 6 probes on this thing. What is this? Well, are they just fuel tanks? Like extra fuel tanks for your space thing? I don't know. Probes for days, that's what I'm saying. Because like if they're fuel tanks, they don't carry a lot of fuel, which I guess is why they have so many of them. But like, yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. The front one does fold. That's all I can tell you. It folds. And does what? What does it do? Yeah, it's like, yeah, unfortunately, I can't really say anything about like, I will say this thing it looks like a space shuttle, right? Like a combination of a space shuttle and a 104 starfighter. I imagine it's meant to be very fast, so cool, I guess. But now we're talking about an aircraft that has space propulsion. now we start talking about things that are a little unrealistic. Having 2 different types of engines on an aircraft is a great way to make your aircraft development and operational costs skyrocket. There's a reason we try not to use the SR, or we haven't used the SR-71. That thing is a maintenance nightmare, and that just is only designed to breathe in air, but at 2 different speed regimes. Definitely slow and really fucking fast. This thing, however, is designed to work in space and air. Where's the fuel gonna go for all of that? It's not gonna, unless they make a super like as energy dense fuel in the future that can actually fit in these pods, and like a single gram is essentially the same power output you'd expect from like a fucking nuclear explosion. I don't know how this thing would work, high key. I feel like this thing would need take up so much more space to have enough fuel to make it work. Where we're going, we don't need a budget. That's what it's, at this point, if they decided to take a battleship that sunk in World War II and turn it into a spaceship, I guess how this thing can fly in air and space is probably the least of my concerns. Antimatter, fuck. At this point, I don't know, man. Might as well. I don't know how that makes energy though, because that is outside of my depth. So, talking about the realism of this thing, I honestly can't say. Despite the fact this thing has one hell of a fucking cockpit to work in space, so I will say this. It also has folding wings. I mean, if this happens to you, consult your doctor. Oh my god, bro. Jesus Christ, have mercy. Matter, antimatter, annihilation. Yeah. Beats me, dude. Beats me. Good god, yeah. This is designed to really fold and fit into an aircraft hangar. Very interesting. The snoot got broken, man. Holy shit. And this very small picture. I guess it could work as good as any other space fighter, I guess. My only question is, like, in 2199, where they have aircraft in space, I would think that they would make directed energy weapons, and I would assume that would be a bit more, I don't know. I would assume that'd be more useful, because think about it this way. If this thing is firing bullets forward, that means the force of the bullets is pushing back on this fighter in space. Therefore, it's going to slow it down by, like, a lot compared to, you know, in atmosphere. So, yeah, I guess I'll give it Space Battleship Yamato 2100 out of 2199 realism. Type 0 out of 99. I can't tell you if this thing is realistic or not, I'll be honest. Anyways, yeah, it's a space plane. Just because it flies in air, I can't speak too much about it because now it's flying in the air and has a space. Because of that, because it has to carry a rocket booster in fucking air, I just realized that's so fucking heavy, so much useless weight, unused weight for this airplane in atmosphere mode. It's probably not going to be very effective in air, honestly. So therefore, I give it a type 0 out of 2199. Unfortunately, not that realistic. Anyways, next meme. Anthony Talon guy submission below this post looked odd. I know. You guys are posting spaceships. What I was supposed to say, I saw this and I saw like, and to be fair, I did judge the book by its cover. I saw this and I'm like, what the fuck is spaceships? These are not airplanes. What the fuck? And then I was like, okay, I could talk about the R-Wing at least. But like, what the fuck? Next plane. Oh man. Anyways. Okay. Oh no, I got to this one. I have a lot to talk about. I have a lot to talk about. Holy fuck. Okay. I'm gonna have to make a stream. I could talk about this for 3 hours. I could talk about this thing for 3 fucking hours. How's it going? Thanks for the hydrate, Salty John. Oh my god. VTOL moment? Yeah. So, the only reason why this submission gives me so much to talk about is not necessarily because it's a helicopter. Honestly, I think this thing actually exists. This is just a Jet Ranger helicopter or Bell 222, whatever, with nice fairings to make it look like sleek and I guess somewhat futuristic. This could absolutely exist. It's just you put a wide body kit on your helicopter. This is what gives me a lot to talk about. Actually, specifically, even just this gives me a lot to talk about. Oh man, okay, I'm gonna have to okay, I have 21 minutes before an ad runs. if I cannot finish talking about it before the ad runs, I have to drop it right there because this is so much. A Mach 2 helicopter. So let's not even talk about this right now. We'll get to Mach. We'll get to top speed later because we talked about it briefly about what does Mach 2 mean, right? I'm sorry, this is so nonsensical. 80,000 to 100,000 feet for this aircraft, this helicopter to fly? Mount Everest is 29,000 feet. Compare 29,000 feet to 80 to 100,000 feet, which, by the way, a 20,000 feet discrepancy is actually kind of high. That's like a lot. Yeah, this is the Airwolf, yo. Yeah, I'm not even gonna talk about Mach 2 yet because I think this is a bit more of an interesting conversation to have right now. Helicopter. You've returned to helicopter that can go basically to the edge of space. Like, this is actually, you're talking about like, this is some fucking X-15 like rocket plane. You're almost in space. Yeah, like this is basically low orbit. Yeah, fucking no. I'm sorry. So I'm gonna use this as an example because this is gonna be to the command line basically. No heli needs to go that high unless we somehow have an orbital elevator, and even then you just use the elevator, not a helicopter. The reason I'm gonna bring up Mount Everest is because this is gonna be a lot more relatable example for everybody instead of just talking about raw numbers. So Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world, the highest elevation, not the farthest point away from the center of the earth. I get it. It is the highest in the air that any person can get up to on earth for the time being. And this is the 80s. They were making shit up. So like, this is 29,000 feet. There has been one helicopter that was able to climb, that was able to take off and land on the summit of Mount Everest. And it was a Eurocopter that was heavily stripped down. Never mind the fact that the wind at the top of Mount Everest is so perilous that any helicopter, even if it could get to that, would be remotely safe, right? But this helicopter was designed to specifically fly to Mount Everest. I don't know how to spell ceiling. The service ceiling of a normal Bell 222 helicopter that this thing was based off of is, hold them out, 20,000 feet. 9,000 feet underneath the rim of Mount Everest. And that is the base helicopter, right? This thing cannot fly to the top of Mount Everest, period. It would not be able to do it even if it was specifically designed to be as light as possible, even if you give it a more powerful engine, because the engine power itself is not necessarily what determines the amount of lift the rotors produce. It's also the amount of lift the rotors produce. Yeah, there's no way in hell, unfortunately, that a Bell 222 with a normal engine could get up to 20,000 feet, much less 80,000 to 100,000 feet. If this thing is supposed to have the same, I assume this has the same rotors, but I guess beefed up to handle the increased load of a, in order to get to 80,000 feet, but it has the same rotor design as like a Bell 222, this rotor would have to be spinning so unbelievably fast that it would tear itself apart. And even then, when it goes that fast, you know what's gonna happen? We're talking about this again, baby. We're talking about stall. So, what happens, my dear viewer, when a wing goes supersonic? Distribution. So what happens when a wing goes supersonic? Behind the scenes, the added parts to the helicopter made it more aerodynamic, according to the actual pilots. Well, I'm sure it will. Like, honestly, like, not gonna lie, this looks a lot more aerodynamic than the baseline Bell Jet Ranger helicopter. My question is, like, it's more aerodynamic. How heavy are these extra parts compared to the regular, helicopter? Because if it's lighter, honestly, this is an overall improvement. Not 80,000 feet improvement, but it's definitely an improvement. Shockwave, thank you, Sirius. Yes. when you go supersonic, you get a shockwave. Let me see if I could find a good picture for this. We're looking at CFD results, aren't we? Fuck, I guess we are. No, let's not do that, because I'm gonna really confuse you guys if I do that. Okay. This, oh my god, y'all are giving me, okay, this is fine. This works. Copy image, because you can't see it behind my big head. There we go. Now we're talking about wave drag. So, when a wing goes supersonic, you create an insane amount of drag. Like, thankfully, I don't have to explain too much here, because this thing says it all. The local, this is like the local airflow over the wing. The plane itself might not be going Mach 1, but as air travels over the wing, oh, blue on blue, goody. There we go. As air travels over the wing, you know, the air is gonna like follow the contour of this wing, but as it's going over the wing, the local speed of the air flying over this part is actually going to be a lot faster than at any other part of the airplane. Almost any other part of the airplane. Like underneath here, the wind is going to be significantly slower, whereas it's going to be a lot faster here. Therefore, even if your plane is not going supersonic, you can still have parts of the wing that is seeing supersonic airflow. And when that happens, you create a shockwave. Basically, creating a shockwave makes it so that there's a lot more drag on your wing. And therefore, there's a lot more force being added that is fighting against the wing. You know, it's slowing you down. That's why there's something called a concept called a sound barrier, because the amount of drag experienced at supersonic speeds is so high that you almost, for the longest time, people couldn't figure out how to get past this supersonic barrier, basically. Let's go back to this. How fast does this rotor need to spin in order to get to 80,000 feet? We're not going to do the math on stream, but I definitely want to, but I don't want to be here forever. Unfeasible. I'm sorry. Like, unfortunately, it's less of a case of the CIA has like all the super advanced technology. Unfortunately, this is limited by physics of a helicopter. This thing would have to be traveling infinitely fast in order to get to 80,000 feet to produce enough lift, let alone overcome the drag produced by its own, you know, speed, let alone the fact that it's probably gonna explode the rotor, because how exactly are these things gonna hold together when this thing is spinning at infinitely fast revolutions per minute, right? It's, yeah, unfortunately, because of that, you're not gonna get to 100,000 feet. That is the edge of space. It's here. Into that shockwaves, Tasmanian Devil. At this point, it might as well be, yeah. It has special turbojets to get up to that speed and height. It has turbojets. Where? Are you talking about these? Interesting. So, how do turbojets work? we're talking about this now. Yeah, this is not a rocket ship. This is a turbojet. In order for the turbojet to produce enough lift, well, no. The jet doesn't produce lift. The turbojet produces thrust, not lift. The only thing producing lift on this aircraft is the rotor blades, which still have to be spinning, mind you, no matter what. And if the rotors themselves are not spinning at Mach 2 plus, how? Yeah, like this would provide forward propulsion, sure. Never mind the fact that they add quite a lot of extra heavy weight. And oh, by the way, you need to have fuel to fuel the turbojets. So again, you have this mystical fuel that doesn't exist, that is light enough to be carried on this aircraft to power not one, not two, but it looks like 4 jet engines. By the way, I think there's like 1 or 2 jet engines, turbo shafts specifically, to power the rotor to begin with. Yeah, the amount of added weight to this thing, and we haven't even talked about the armament, the armor, the bulletproof glass, the bulletproof armor all over the whole aircraft. And like bulletproof, well, how bulletproof, right? Class 1, class 4, whatever. Unfortunately, it's nonsensical, because even though you have thrust being produced by these engines, how do helicopters fly? You can use the rotor as essentially a wing, but the wing is constantly spinning. That means on this side, I assume that this rotor is spinning clockwise. On this side, the wing is actually going slower, whereas on the other side is going twice as fast as the helicopter, because this thing is spinning. Even though you have forward momentum, this is going to have a tendency to want to roll over. Like, I can't see how this could work. Go over the day to harmless because there's even less sense making. Oh god. Has an aircraft passed with flying colors yet? The closest one to do that was the CFA 44, I think. And that was the closest one. Not quite, unfortunately. Battlestar Galactica, oh god. This was made by the same company that gave us both the original Battle and Knight Rider. Oh shit. Yeah, but when it comes to like the actual design of this aircraft, like the fairings make it more aerodynamic, and this has flown in reality. Like this exists, but the capabilities that it's described as having is unfortunately way too nonsensical. I don't know, like, and I'm sorry to say, like, even if it is like a CIA secret project, it is kind of just limited by physics. And I get it. Yeah, Airwolf TV series is a it is a TV series from the 80s, so they could essentially make shit up and just say, yeah, trust us. But when it comes to the physics of this thing, in order to have this actual capability in reality, that's, you're not going on, I'm basically going to say, you're not going to get to 80,000 or 100,000 feet with a helicopter. You can get it with other type of aircrafts, but not with something that has a rotary wing and relies on that to propel itself forward. So unfortunately, I have to give this a 0 out of 222 bells. That's a weird way to put it. I'll give this, I take it back. No. That's not that's too mean. I'll give this a 20,000 foot ceiling out of 100,000 feet. So not really good, but at least it existed. And that's the main thing. This thing actually exists. That's what I want to say. Just not in the way that it's described as. So yeah, 20,000 out of 100,000 feet. Not that realistic for the capabilities, but at least it actually exists and it flew. So yeah, next plane, aircraft 2. God damn, that only took me 10 minutes. 22 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever. Yeah, I didn't even talk about Mach 2 yet. That's too much. The more I read about the thing's specs, the more it sounds like fluff text for a G.I. Joe toy. I was gonna say, maybe. Yeah, I didn't even talk about the, like, how fast the tail rotor had to talk about. That didn't even cross my mind. I just had to move on. Anyways, this thing actually is makes a lot more sense, actually. Hold up. So, this is a Orca VTOL Attacker Command and Conquer Tiberium Dawn cast gunship for Global Defense Initiative. God damn it. GTI. Oh, thanks for the hydrate, by the way. Didn't even notice. I gotta take a piss at some point. Oh my god. How long has it been? It's been 2 hours and I've talked about this many planes. I'm doing a part 2, guys. I'm gonna call it right now. I have to do a part 2. There's no fucking way. But hey, this is a great learning experience to see the limits I need to impart upon myself when I talk about these things next time. Because, oh, this is gonna be a 10-hour stream if I keep up this pace. Holy shit. Oh man. Anyways, between these two, this thing looks a little bit more feasible. Now, you run the thing. I have to update my post to Imperial system, man. There you go, man. Gotta bring up that Imperial, please do. So, this is a tilt rotor. Well, not tilt rotor. This is a tilt turbo fan, a tilt ducted fan, VTOL capable attack aircraft of sorts. Interesting. So, the question posed that I initially have for this is, this thing's kind of small, isn't it? I can see the pilot in here. What is the combat duration of this thing? Where is the fuel stored? In order for this thing to be, you know, longitudinally stable, the fuel would have to be stored probably like right behind the pilot. How efficient is this aircraft? Based off of how small this is, and the fact that it has to run not 1, not 2, but it looks like 3 ducted fans, I'd expect this thing to fly for like 5 to 10 minutes. Which honestly, for Command and Conquer, I don't know how long these units are supposed to fly around for, because I think it's like an RTS top-down game, right? that might be all you need. In which case, honestly, that kind of works in this thing's favor. If it's only supposed to fly for like 10 minutes. If you're gonna tell me it flies for like an hour, I'm gonna say this is super unrealistic. The Orca is a really series of VTOL aircraft that's meant to be the future of the GDI's Air Force. So it's like a family of aircraft. Looks like this is a attack gunship type thing. Let's put some 747s on a heli. It's this is not a 747 engine. This is like a Learjet engine. It's these are pretty small, honestly. They're like a Gulfstream engine. Look how big the pilot is and look how big the engines are. High key, this thing might very well fit inside the cowling of a 747 engine. Maybe not 747. A 777 engine, probably. Maybe not a 747. This thing might be as big as a 747 engine. Mainly carries a chain gun and Hellfire missiles. I assume that's what these pods are, right? This was the first generation of the Orca 2. Okay. So I do kind of wonder, like, how long are you allowed to have this unit out on the battlefield for? Like, does Command and Conquer have a thing where it's like you can deploy a unit for as long as you want, or is it for this aircraft where you can deploy it but you only have however many minutes to make use of it? Because like this is a small aircraft for something that has so many engines, really. Some are short range, while the larger ones naturally have way more fuel, but mainly because they're bomber variants. That makes more sense then, right? Like the bigger it is, the more fuel you can carry, the bigger your payload, the bigger your range at that. So that's the citation at biggest. There's no fuel, but it's mainly ammo count. Once your ammo is spent, they have to head back to your arm. Okay, so I had a feeling for an RTS game, they probably wouldn't take fuel into account. And why would you, right? This is a top-down game, I assume. Or top-down-ish, it's still 3D. But because of that, I would not expect in reality for this aircraft to have more than like legit 10 maybe 15 minutes of airtime before it runs out of fuel. Because I don't see a fuel tank big enough to power 3 engines efficiently for a long time. I will say though, I actually have to think about this. I just noticed there's a lot of weight in front of the propulsion. Because you said there's a chain gun. Did you say chain gun? Yeah, a chain gun and some Hellfire missiles that are located in front of the propulsion. This thing is going to have such a crazy, like, to go back to this thing. Basically, this is what it looks like. It's going to have a very crazy nose down tendency. There we go. It's going to want to do this because all the weight is down here, but all the lift and I guess thrust, because it's the engines that are pointing down, is pointing like that. So as a matter of fact, it looks like, god damn it, not what I wanted to do. It kind of looks like this tail rotor here is not providing upward thrust. It actually has to provide downward thrust. It has to provide thrust in the opposite direction to make this thing from spinning around and doing front flips like crazy. You should see the variants that were in the second Tiberium war. I can only imagine, because if this is the first one, they definitely had to. They basically created an airplane, but they replaced the wings with engines that can tilt forward and backwards. So that's not to say that it can't work, but that is to say that I feel like there's probably more efficient ways to make an aircraft that does what this does. I would be able to tell you what that. Well, I would be able to tell you what that is. It's an attack helicopter, because that thing has to only power one rotary wing, but now you have rotary wings. Okay, it's not that unrealistic, honestly. Like, I could actually see this thing existing, maybe not in having the same capabilities as what the game would have you believe, but I could definitely see this working. Tiberium is a very interesting where it kills all organics have harvested, but can be turned into any form of resource when harvested. Huh? Yikes. First gen, yeah, they're just starting to field them. Hell, GDI's early Air Force was Warthogs, Chinooks, and the Orca family. Interesting. Like, I can see this thing working high key. Just, it would take some convincing to determine how effective it would be. So, yeah, I'll give it, I don't know if I can make a funny pun. I'll give it a first gen out of 2 with this one. It's it's totally doable. Just tell me that its abilities are less than it probably has. So yeah, there we go. We'll take that. Okay, cool. Next plane. All right. We are so fucking far back. Oh. I'm gonna run an ad. I have about a minute and a half before the ad runs, so let me run that right now. I'm gonna take a sip of my whiskey while that happens. BRB, everybody. Oh my god. It's... How many have I done so far? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm a third of the way done. Honestly better than I thought. That's a little bit better than I expected. Having said that, I do not want to... I feel like to go any faster than this. Plain moment, oh my god. Well, that was just plain crazy, right? There's like 20 more. There's 40 more? Ain't no way there's 40 more. Okay, I'm gonna count right now. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nice. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have a lot to talk about for this one. 16, 17. Oh boy. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Oh my god. Okay. There's 27 more that I have to do. There's not 40 more. There's 27 more. That could have been bad. Also, how's it going? La Magie de la Vie. Thanks for dropping in. Plane review. What planes are we reviewing? We are reviewing fictional aircraft that users, the community of VFleet has submitted for me to review and leverage my... What was I going to say? My expertise. my aircraft design, my aircraft performance, my design techniques, and expertise and such. To see how realistic these planes are. Yes. That's what we're doing. Fake planes! Okay. Well, fictional planes. Because this thing is a helicopter, I know. This thing existed in real life. Except it was not able to go Mach 2 at 100,000 feet. That's the only thing. So, but yeah, we're just doing that submission. I am definitely going to have to do a part 2 to this stream because I don't want to go so fast that I start, you know, disservicing. I want to give everyone a fair shot as much as I possibly can. Also, how's it going, Time Worm? Wasn't that one helicopter the AV-14 attack VTOL? I'm actually not sure what you're talking about because there's a lot of planes in here. But I have 27 more to go and I've only done 10. So, next plane, we're doing the Z-1800. I'm not going to say 1,800, except I did. Phaeton, Helios, Halo 5 Guardians. I actually did not play Halo 5 Guardians. Not a spaceship, it is analogous to a VTOL. Oh boy. The one right beside the real one. Oh, that one? Oh, I have no idea. Command and Conquer Orca thing was what this thing was. Orca VTOL attacker, yeah. But I already went past that one. I have to talk about this. This is a VTOL. How? If this thing is meant to take off and land vertically, it's also a gunship with special alien weapons of sort. How does this thing fly? I'm probably not gonna have too much to say about this because, and honestly, yeah, this is Forerunner, right? Yeah, I wish you luck trying to science Forerunner tech. There's like, see here, that side disc. This is the propulsion. Okay, so this thing has some sort of thrust that's pointing downwards and inwards like this, presumably on 2 sides. I think there's got to be another engine on the other side. Anti-gravity. Oh, even better. So not only do we have a random force being produced by means we do not know which, but the force that's actually being produced is anti-gravity. Okay. So let's just say I'm doing this, let's just say, for the hell of it, that we do not care about how this thing produces thrust. Because this thing is clearly producing thrust from these discs and this thing in the back here. It is producing thrust downwards. Where's the center of gravity of this thing? If the center of gravity is like this, and there's no... I do not see any other place on here that looks like it could be a way to balance out the thrust being produced by these massive anti-gravity engines, whatever. This thing is basically going to be doing this the entire time. I do not know how it expects, or how you expect this thing to fly forward or fly level, let alone any direction other than, you know, flipping like so, and then it's just gonna go and pancake right into the floor because, yeah, what? This thing cannot actually move unless there's another anti-gravity engine at the front to balance out that force. If you can convince me that there's some other force being pushed, some other source of thrust, anti-gravity thrust, whatever, being pushed down here, then I can say, okay, at least it has the ability to fly around. I don't see how that works. Yeah, the side propulsion discs are technically also disconnected, I think. Oh, even better. So it just, I give it fucking Halo Wars out of 5. Halo, that is to say 0 out of 5 realism. What the fuck is this thing? It'll flip over like a bike hitting a rock. It'll flip over like a bike that you are constantly doing a wheelie on and you have no front wheel. Actually, that is what this is. This is a bike without a front wheel. That's what this looks like. that is the only way to make this thing work. So I give it Halo Wars out of 5. That is 0. Forerunner, fuck yourself, bro. This shit doesn't exist. You guys, aren't you the baddie? Y'all made the fucking galaxy-ending super weapons, and here you are making nonsensical. I mean, the paint job's kind of interesting. Nonsensical anti-gravity machines that the engines aren't even taught. Like what? Insane. You're talking about this thing? Like you're saying this? Like, this is my only thing that I could see that this would provide any amount of counteracting thrust for these 3 giant-ass engines. The issue being, I feel like this is a little bit too small and too baffed. I feel like this thing has to be way up here to make it work. And it does have a grumpy face. Yeah. It's very menacing. Very menacing. Let's see here. The main gun at the front is a straight laser. It can also essentially shoot lasers, explosives from those side guns. Even explosives even. And no wonder they died. Yeah, they knew not what they trifled with. But yeah, anyways. And that, by the way, this is just the pure design. I'm just assuming that, you know, these things just work. Like, never mind the fact that anti-gravity engines don't exist in reality. Even assuming that this design still is not particularly realistic. Also, yeah, these control surfaces are not actually attached to the engines, it looks like. Even better. So, we're supposed to mention weapons capability. I wouldn't talk too much about it. The only reason I would talk about the payload capacity of an aircraft is essentially to determine how well it does its job based off of its design. This thing looks like it does its job just fine if it's only allowed to fly for like a couple minutes, because chain guns and missiles are kind of heavy, so you're gonna have to use a lot of energy, and this thing doesn't look like it can carry a lot of fuel. That's the extent to which I want to talk about armament or payload. When it comes to this thing, fuck if I know, dude. It's anti-gravity. If it's anti-gravity, it doesn't need engines. It just floats. Anyways, next plane. I'm moving on. Yeah, fucking Halo, dude. You couldn't, like, give me the Hornet or, like, a Pelican. I know the Pelican was, like, part of the thing. I could have talked about those. When you're talking about this thing, oh, fuck, I don't even know. I need some whiskey for that one. Jesus. Okay. Next plane. I'm doing the silly light planes. Oh, my God. We tried our best. I was gonna say Pelican. Speaking of Pelican, oh my god, we were so close to greatness. Then you thought about the MCU Quinjet. Yes, the Quinjet. So, thankfully, I don't have too much to talk about for this. Well, I kind of do. There are certain things that I will talk about that I don't have to talk about in depth anymore. Is the engine placement, the intake placement. And thanks for the hydrate, by the way. God, I'm gonna get a lot of hydrations. So. Yeah, we know that the Pelican works IRL, Lamel. Like, and here's the thing. I could actually point at the Pelican and tell you why it would work in IRL and what it would take to make it work in reality today. But since no one posted that, I'm not going to talk about it. There we go. You know what? How about that? I'll think about opening submissions like very limited submissions for part 2 of the stream, because yeah, ain't no way I'm getting through another 25 airplanes right now. Anyway, I get why, but looking at that image head on it looks like the guy in a suit running towards us. Like this one? How so? You fiend. I know. How could I? So, anyways, let's talk about this plane. Pelican. I mean, it can fly the plug-in Microsoft Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and flies just fine. Never mind the fact that it's a flight simulator with simulator unrealistic controls for that one in particular. Because I've flown that plane. I played Flight Simulator 2020 and I flew the Pelican. It's a little borked, a little bit. Anyways, yeah, please save me from this. Will the previous submissions be included? Oh, absolutely. Part 2. For part 2, I'm going to continue on where I left off at this point. And it really does depend, if I open submissions again, how far I can get tonight. So let's keep on going and let's try and get as many people's submissions in as we possibly can. So, ooh, this is going to be tough. So I can talk about why the engines being up here is not a good idea. This is still a plane. Yes, I believe the Quinjet. Actually, somebody tell me right now. I don't remember. Is this a VTOL capable aircraft? Can this thing land and take off vertically? Is it? Because like, it is. Okay. That makes more sense then. I'll be honest. I didn't watch that many Marvel movies. I watched up to Endgame. And I didn't even watch all the Marvel movies prior to that. So I know very little about this plane in particular. So, but the fact that you're telling me that it is a VTOL means the location of these engine intakes are not completely nonsensical. Because when this thing is hovering, it might need a bit of thrust to get in, or a bit of air to get in through here. The reason I say this is nonsensical is if there is no other inlets for these engines that provide forward thrust. It has thrust in the wings. It does have thrust in the wings too. Okay. This one isn't for dogfighting. Yeah, obviously. Obviously, this is not a dogfighter. But the issue remains, when this thing flies in a normal mode, like even as something as big as like an airliner, let me show you. Like, you're still gonna impart an angle of attack onto it. So, yeah, there we go. Even if it's not a fighter, if this thing wants to turn or if it wants to ascend, it needs to still have an angle of attack being imparted on it. Where having engines at the top here, this would essentially make these things super inefficient. If this thing has intakes elsewhere, ideally towards the bottom part of the airplane, that is where this plane makes more sense. If these are the only intakes, I cannot see this being particularly because it's an internal combustion engine, right? Like it's not like the same as like a car engine. It's still a turbojet of some sort, but in order for a turbojet to work, it still needs to ingest air, which is why, you know, all of these intakes on airplanes you see nowadays are underneath the aircraft or on the wings or something. So it's kind of hard to see how this thing would be that realistic, only because I don't know for sure if it has intakes elsewhere on the plane. And for that reason, I'll give it a Marvel Endgame out of infinity. It's the end. Not that'd be a fucked up thing to end it right now, Jesus Christ. But still, for dropship capabilities, having VTOL capabilities, perfectly fine. It makes sense to have the engines intakes up here, but it needs more intakes, is what I'm trying to say. So for that reason, I give it 7 out of 100 Marvel movies. Fuck it, I don't know. Next plane. That's mean. It's 7 out of 10 movies. It's fairly realistic, honestly. Just, you know, a few considerations that maybe they have to think about. So, because I'm a Titanfall fan, I must comment at least one Titanfall related thing. The Goblin. You got a Goblin this dropship. Hey, yo. This is the blunt object. Oh man, who for a brick, it flies pretty good. Nice. So, this is a dropship. I need to remember this. Okay. From Titanfall, I remember playing Titanfall a little bit, not a lot, unfortunately, but I do know there's like a crew / dropship compartment right here. This is also VTOL, huh? How is this VTOL? Where are the engines that point downwards. It doesn't help that I'm only looking at one image of this. Like, does this thing have like thrusters underneath the wings or underneath the body? Jets in the side things. So are you saying like there's downward pointing jets on the wings, like on these things here? Because that's the only way I could imagine this thing being a dropship, like a VTOL capable dropship. Because I guess right now, more towards the middle front. The middle front even. Okay, interesting. My guess is the nacelles have nozzles that direct engine thrust downwards. Okay. Okay, that makes sense then. Similar to a Harrier. If you're saying more towards the middle front, Akiho says, that makes a lot more sense then. Rear nozzles and the rear articulates down to. Okay, perfect. So this thing became a lot more realistic because of that. Because as of right now, if the only downward thrust things were located like here, then yeah, this thing would have the similar issue with the other Halo 5 Guardians things where it constantly flip. But if you're saying that there's a downward nozzle of some sort in the middle front, and the engines at the back here articulate down, like they have thrust vectoring to go down. So basically this is an F-35, an F-35 type gunship in a way, except instead of lift fan, I assume it's like a full-on thruster or something. My question at that point would be, for the middle thruster, where does it get the air? I assume it probably has, the air comes through here and it gets ducted in, which for a VTOL, having your intakes being this high off the ground makes it really advantageous to have it up here, actually. It is basically Ami, yeah. High key, actually, this can get totally fucking work, dude. Assuming that, I will say, I would think that the intakes might need to be a bit bigger than these if it has to power not one, not two, but 3 engines, perhaps. And there will be some kind of intricate ducting to get air from here and equally distributed, or distributed appropriately, not equally, because you don't necessarily need to be equal thrust. Appropriately distributed from these 2 intakes into 3 engines, essentially. The place where air comes in is the thruster part. Oh, you mean like that? Oh, so it's not in the ooh, interesting. That's interesting. Unfortunately, this is no longer realistic. Fuck. Oh, that's unfortunate. So, yeah. If you told me that there's thrust coming from down here, this thing would work. Like, the only reason this wouldn't work is because no one made it. But, like, the fact that you're telling me the thruster is here, there's, like, a lot of crap here. The center of gravity is going to be so far forward compared to the amount of thrust being produced. I'm not sure where the intake would actually be. Like, because I assume these are the intakes. And, like, there's a thruster here, in which case there's no room for the thruster. So how would that work, right? Ah, shit, damn. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think this would work. Yeah, this thing would not work as a VTOL. To work as a regular airplane, it had to be going really fast because these are really small-ass control surfaces. Yeah, I give this a Titanfall 0 out of 2, dude. That's unfortunate. If you told me it was the Bat submarine, I believe you. This probably would work fine as a submarine, by the way. Yeah. If it only had to worry about forward thrust and buoyancy. But unfortunately, this is an aircraft of some sort that has VTOL capabilities. So yeah, I have to give this, unfortunately, a Titanfall 0 out of 2. There'll never be a third one. And I fucking hate Respawn Entertainment and EA for that forever. So yeah. Anyways, next plane. What do we got? All right, this is an OC. How's it going? So we got Scurvy Rum. What we got here? Listen. I was all for saying this is probably the most realistic thing if it had engine over here. Since it doesn't have an engine over here, this is very unrealistic. That is like the one thing keeping this from being like a realistic aircraft. Unfortunate, man. Anyways, this is an OC. I'm gonna be nice. 7 Scurvy 7. 7 Scurvy 7. Oh, I like that actually. That's pretty fun. Aircraft forms as an OC. It can zip through. Okay, let me read this properly. Read, Tony, read. I can zip zoom at speeds massively faster than light. for a 747. All right. And warp reality. All right. We're talking about this. Based on which Earth, Wind, and Fire song I'm currently listening to. Hey, wait, hold up. So like, hey, are we on? Is this like the party jet? This sounds pretty sick. Hold up. When I'm stressed doing Citrus Monarch stuff, I do like to take a glide around the world to relax and let the world be groovy for a moment. Let's groove. Let's groove tonight. Oh, hell yeah. It's my default song because it's my favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire song. That's actually pretty sick, honestly. Based. Let's go. My windows can shoot black holes if anyone tries to sabotage my flight. Goddamn. I'll automatically win because I have plot manipulation powers. Let's go. Let's see here. What power source does Scurvy have, and where can I get some of it? Well, haven't you even listened to what I was saying, Akiho? He has plot manipulation powers. As far as where it comes from, you'll have to ask him. Yeah, this is a 747 with plot armor and plot powers. The 747 is a great airplane. It's a beast. Queen of the skies for a reason. And you just made it better. So because you're able to warp reality, you're able to tell me that this works. Therefore, this is the most realistic plane I've ever seen. Yeah. Canonically capable of barrel roll. I would hope so. Honestly, this would be freaking hilarious. Hey, Scurv, if you're in chat, can you do a barrel roll? Please tell me that's like the one thing you can't do, because you can do all this other stuff. And it'd be funny if, like, for whatever reason, you just can't do a barrel roll. Oh my god, yeah, suck it, Airbus. Like, hey man, all I'm saying is that people are still, even as recently as 2023, people were buying and Boeing was like delivering 747s. When did the A380 stop production? That's all I'm gonna say. What's a production run of an A380? That's all. Yeah. People love the 747, and it's pretty good because of it. The E in EWAC stands for eyes, I'll say. Got the all-seeing, all-knowing Citrus Monarch stuff. Yeah. Barrel roll would rip apart the fabric of the universe. Exactly. It can only point straight and level. Let's see. So, yeah, it's a 747. It's It has capabilities that are not realistic because let's be honest, FTL, faster than light, and warping reality is, I'm talking about stuff in frame of reality. But because you said Let's Groove is your default song that you play on your flight, I give this a 10 out of 10. The best plane, the best plane. We did not have to buy this from Qatar Airways. Yeah. It is very realistic, yes. You know, I'll give the Earth, Wind, and Fire, bias score of 10 out of 10 because you chose the right song. Absolutely. So thank you very much for your submission, Scurvy. But yeah, 10 out of 10. Let's go, baby. Let's fucking go. A380's production just ran 18 years between 2003 and 2021. Actually, though? So in other words, how long? Now I want to know. Because they made the 747 they made the 747 in like the 60s. 54 years. Goddamn. That's actually kind of crazy. Yeah, 747s have been around for a hot second, it seems. Yeah, 1967, bro. And yeah, that's crazy. Anyways, let's groove tonight. We got it right. Yeah, sir. Okay, we got a winner there. Thank you, Scurvy. All right, anyways, it's time to go for next plane. What do we got? All right, Aaron, let's see what we've got. From Warhammer 40K, we got the Imperium of Man Valkyrie. Another gunship, nice. I will say, you guys like your gunships and fighters, huh? Really nice, really nice. A gunship transport for the Imperium Guard. Flight is described not so much in the traditional aerodynamic sense, but rather beating gravity into submission. You know, that's how helicopters fly, right? You know, airplanes fly by imparting a downward momentum based off of the air coming off the wings to create lift that counteracts gravity. Helicopters beat the air into submission by spinning this crazy fucking fan blade above your heads, a single point of failure, by the way, and it just forces air beneath it until the ground rejects it. So basically, this is a helicopter, is what you're saying. Mag Hag Ray, let's go, baby! Cowabunga! Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let me take some of that whiskey as well. Speaking of groovy, by the way. Oh my gosh, so good. Anyways, that's awesome. How's it going, Maggie? Thanks so much for the raid. Yeah, I always love listening to the little disco. Ooh, baby. How's it going, Cat Pestis? Thanks so much for the follow. Let me give you a shout out. How's it going, Maggie? Thanks for dropping in. For those of you who came in with the raid, my name is Anthony Talon. Y'all can call me Tony, the newest member of VFleet. I'm sorry, I had to pronounce it as VFleet. But today we're doing a special stream. We're doing a user-submitted fictional plane review where I leverage my knowledge in aerospace engineering. Aerospace engineering. I wish I could speak. Aerospace engineering to determine how realistic some of these aircraft from fictional IPs are. But I see you're playing Battlefield 6, which is freaking awesome. So I hope you have a wonderful time, Maggie, and I hope you enjoy Battlefield 6 because I intend to play it a decent amount as well. So yes, I think we're on, like, we might be close to halfway through at this point. I think we're halfway through our submission. Maybe not. Fuck. Either way, I'm gonna do a part 2 of the stream, 100%. There's no way I'm getting through all of this tonight, so free to stick around. Whereas I talk about, I guess for now, talking about Imperium of Man Valkyrie. Yes. So, and I see this is a model you painted. Looks very nice, by the way. I love the yellow-green camo. So what do we got? So we got this is a gunship, right? Does this have VTOL capabilities? Are you good? This has VTOL capabilities. Okay. Okay. Also, by the way, you painted all this, right? Did you paint all? Wait, hold on. You painted all this? Holy shit! What the fuck is this? Man, dude, I tell you, man, these Warhammer miniature painters, what the fuck? That looks insane, man. That's actually crazy what you're doing. Wow, dude. That's actually that's impressive as hell, dude. Holy fuck. Yeah, yeah, because like, and just to notice that smaller guy down here, painting the screen is crazy. That's actually insane that you painted this. Like, holy fuck. Like, you actually got the scanner. Oh my god, that's so good. That's so good. How's it going, Merlin? Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, this is actually so fucking fine, bro. This is fire. Unfortunately, I have to talk about the realism of this aircraft now, so I might have to tear it a new one, but it's okay. Warhammer fans can rival Da Vinci with their model painting. That's what I'm saying, dude. Look at this. This is crazy. Oh, I do love the wash you got in there. So this is like a Harrier VTOL. So that's my question then. So the way you describe it is, it doesn't much in the traditional aerodynamic, doesn't fly in the traditional aerodynamic sense. Although it certainly could. I don't see why it couldn't. Like, yeah, like the engines are up here. Okay. The reason why you would never want to put your engines up here in this placement on any type of aircraft is because this poor motherfucker will no longer be able to hear after the first flight. After sitting in this thing with the engines on for any amount of time, this guy no longer can hear. What is the distance between this guy's ears and the fucking compressor blades? That's like, what, 3 feet? I will say, my understanding of Warhammer 40k is that bodily mutilation is kind of a normal thing. So, hey, maybe he has implants that he can turn off the frequency that these things create. Maybe. Hey, pilot, you good? What? You got little John in the back going, what? Yeah, poor guy. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the pilot in this sense because he's not going to hear nothing. He knows right away if one of the engines goes out. He probably doesn't because he probably can't hear anything. And high key, this is where, like, it's actually interesting that these engines are produced are like this, is that they're so close to each other that the asymmetric thrust you get from these engines, depending on how powerful the engines are, probably you wouldn't notice it maybe right away, maybe. You might notice it right away, but it'd be a lot more subtle than you think. Because, like, if an airliner's engine goes out, you'll notice that shit right away because the engines are on the wings. There's, like, a lot of asymmetric thrust. You know, if, yeah, let's use this one. Like, if, like, let's say, like, the engines of even this thing are going. Let's say, you know, this engine is cut out. Or rather, let's say that this engine is working, but this engine is cut out. You know, this aircraft is going to have a tendency to want to yaw this way, just because off the center of gravity, you're imparting a moment, a yawing moment, just from one engine being operative and the other one being not. In this case, the engines are close enough to each other to where it may not be as big of an effect, of an initial effect as you would expect if one engine goes out. It's almost as bad as one Space Marine vehicle where the gunner is sitting directly under the barrel of a rotor cannon. Dude, like, these space, like, Warhammer 40k is wild with like how brutal its society is. Like, oh, it took you how long to learn how to fly this plane? Oh, that's cool and all. You get tinnitus forever. you get infinity tinnitus. If he's a really good pilot, maybe they'll give him new augmented ears. I'd say they have to give him some sort of augmented ears to make this work. You know when the engine fails because the fan blades go through the backseater's box? That too. Ideally, the engine failure isn't an overspeed of the compressor blades. That would be... there's that one scene in Masters of the Air that I watched on Facebook Reels that one time, and a guy lost half of his face because the engine exploded, I think, or was it shrapnel? I don't know. Either way, that could be very messy, to say the least. I don't think you'd know anything after that. I was gonna say, like, maybe you don't know much if that happens. Because, as a normal airplane, realistic failure is grot going to the turbine. Yikes. Well, that depends. These things are pretty high up off the ground. Are grots flyable, like, flying creatures? In which case, yeah, that's like any other bird strike. But if they're on the ground, maybe they won't get up there. Because, like, high key, this design is actually pretty feasible for, like, a normal flying forward gunship. The fact that it VTOLs means there has to be some way of producing downward thrust. I unfortunately do not see how this thing can produce downward thrust at all. So from that aspect, it's not that realistic. Because, like, again, I assume these are the only two engines. And here's the thing: even if it did have another engine, let's make for argument's sake, these rhombus are the VTOL nozzles. So you're telling me the only VTOL nozzles are these guys? What is actually... Now I have to ask, how exactly, like, what is coming out of these nozzles? Is it air? Is it, like, are these like rocket motors? Like, is it just solid propellant? Like, how does that work? Because these are very clearly air-breathing engines. This is a turbojet. Two of them, as a matter of fact. What is coming out of here? It's just work. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. Engine thrust. Interesting. Even the Imperium doesn't know. Yeah, that's I was gonna say, if I were to say how this thing could feasibly work in this design, you would either have to duct some of the exhaust coming from here. Specifically, you're going to want to duct something coming from here, because that's where all of your actual high energy flow is going. Maybe you don't have to. Or you need to have very super small, I'm talking about tiny, but insanely powerful engines in these nozzles. And even then, these are not thrust nozzles. These are just exhaust. Like, this is a diffuser. This is not a thrust producing nozzle. A thrust producing nozzle would ideally converge. It's okay. There's a few theories. There's a few design ways you can make nozzles work, but this looks less like, you know, thrust producing exhaust as opposed to just exhaust. JTOs maybe. I was gonna say JTOs have very limited burn time. Like, if you turn on, when you say JTO, you're talking about the solid rocket propellants that C-130s use for super short takeoffs. Those are either on or they don't. Like, you cannot control the thrust of those. They're either you light them up and you get the thrust for a specific amount of time because it's basically a solid rocket motor, and you cannot stop it until it burns through. So VTOL capability for this is going to be very limited if that's how it works. I doubt that's how it works, but it seems like the Imperium of Man doesn't know either. So Ramjets would not work because where are you getting the supersonic airflow for? In order for a ramjet to work, the air coming into the jet has to be going supersonic to the point where just the natural compression of the geometry inside the nozzle is enough to compress the air to more than it needs to be. There are no spinning parts in a ramjet because, you know, suck, squeeze, bang, blow, right? A compressor is the squeeze part of a jet engine. And that's a bunch of turbine blades, compressor blades specifically, spinning really fast to make the air higher pressure. You don't need to do that when you're going supersonic with a ramjet. So this is not a ramjet, especially with VTOL. So what do we got? I guess to be super fair, it's implied Promethium is like 999 octane fuel. So it is so volatile because, like, wait, hang on. I have to remember, octane is analogous to how much something wants to burn, right? If it's like, I don't remember what octane rating means. Let's do this real quick. Measure a fuel's resistance to premature combustion. The higher the numbers indicate a more stable fuel. Less likely to ignite. That's right. So 100 low lead is going to be less likely to burn. So high octane means it's actually harder to combust it, which means you need to have even higher pressure to make it work. This thing would need very low octane fuel, I feel like, to make it work. I figure it's ducted through the wings. Like, that could work, I guess. So closer to like 5 then. Yeah, so not 999, but actually 5. Yeah, basically. Basically, cesium, and it's air, so therefore it explodes. Yeah, anyways. Because of that, it's hard to tell how that works. If this thing didn't have VTOL capabilities, it's actually pretty realistic. Except for the fact that these exhausts are pointed, it looks like directly at this tail surface. This thing needs to be made out of some super fucking high melting point metal, or melting point something, so that the exhaust doesn't melt this thing over time. Yeah, like high key, to make this thing work better, I would want this to be up here. But besides that, minus the VTOL capabilities, is actually kind of realistic. Like, there's not too much reason this wouldn't work. So, because you add VTOL capabilities that nobody can explain how it works, I have to say, I'll give this a 20,000 out of Warhammer 40k. It can be realistic were it not for that one detail. Anyways, next plane. There we go. I think they just barely missed it in level flight. Maybe, but just it's still hot. Like, maybe you're not getting the exhaust going directly through the wing or the horizontal stabilizer, but it's still exhaust. It's still gonna be hot as hell. Yeah, typically you don't want to put anything in the path of jet exhaust because jet exhaust is really hot and things don't like being very hot in general. And I'm talking about a couple thousands of degrees. So at that point, Celsius or Fahrenheit doesn't matter because it's so high. So anyways. Yeah, next plane, what do we got? So second submission, the Tau Empire Barracuda fighter from Warhammer 40k, yes, yet again. Intended as a primary air superiority fighter, its high-tech flight suite and advanced weapons make up for the low numbers when attrition is in the name of the game. Gotcha. So, a very specialized air superiority fighter that is not made in high quantities. Okay. High-tech indeed. Interesting. Where's the cockpit? I assume... Okay, this is the cockpit. Okay. So, it's offset. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. As a giant motherfucking guns, makes sense. So that's interesting, actually. So I assume these are very high caliber weapons. Like these look like some tank cannon motherfuckers, like or Gatling guns or something. It's very interesting how that could work then, because like, cowabunga! Yo, another raid, go baby! Let me give you a shout out. Showboat raid, how's it going, Lena? Hope you're doing well. What do we got? Uma Musu, let's go baby. Yeah, we listen to the raid music every time, guys. I almost rated you. I meant to do shout out. There we go. How's it going, Linus? Thanks so much for dropping in. Hope you're doing well. Showboat Ray, let's go. You got Summer Marzensky, but it took a lot of sacrifice. Hey, speaking of sacrifice, we're talking about Warhammer 40k. Wait, yes, how's it going, Lena? How was so I was gonna say how was Uma Musume, but it looks like you won. You know, stay winning, stay gold, pony boy. Let me know when stay gold gets in the game, by the way. My champions run was terrible, and I spent way too much. Holy shit! Woo! Thank you so much for the gifting of sub, Hawaiian, much appreciated. That scared the shit out of me. Why is that so much louder than my raid music? God damn. Scared the shit out of me. Thanks so much for the gifting sub. Champions run was terrible, and I spent way too many carrots today. Oh man, carrots as in like. Don't tell me that. Is that what they call the premium currency in Uma Musume? Carrots? That's actually kind of hilarious. No fucking way. You never truly win in gotcha. Dude, like I was gonna say, that's great. That's so good. Like as someone who likes puns, that's so fucking tight. So fucking good. 2 forums, free and paid. You got your premium organic carrots from the that you have to put in the green bag at Ralph's versus the $1 for a bag of 30, right? Yeah. That's insane. Towboat raid, what the fuck? Oh wow, thanks so much for gifting. What's up, subby? So subby wubbies, thank you. Thank you very much, Hawaiian, once again, much appreciated. Sorry, not sorry. Hey, I appreciate it, dude. I obviously appreciate it. But yes, but glad to hear that you were able to get what you needed after great trial and tribulation and sacrifice to get, I'm sorry, what was the name? Summer Marzensky, I think is what you said. Yeah, nice. So congratulations once again. Oh, and where's my manners? For those of you who joined in with the raid, my name is Anthony Talon. Y'all can call me Tony. I am the newest member of VFleet. And today we are talking about the realism of user-submitted fictional aircraft from throughout media. We're looking at Warhammer 40k, but we looked at other Gundam and type stuff before. So I am like maybe halfway through all the submissions, and it's been almost 3 hours. I'm definitely doing a part 2 for this stream. So if I didn't get to your submission today, fret not. I'll do it next week. Can I do it next week? Hold up. I think I can do it next week. I'll schedule it for probably same time next week. Yeah. Yeah, hey, yo, planes, hello. Hey, how's it going, Josie? Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. But yes, we're talking about planes. Lots and lots of planes. Sorry, I was chewing up armor in BF6. Let's go. Yeah, also BF6 is so fun. I'm gonna play a lot more of that too. Yeah, a wild Josie appeared. So if this thing has a tank cannon, then it's like the Piaggio P1088. Oh my god, yes. Or the Duck. But yes, this is apparently a tank gun. It's very interesting to then put it to the off center. Goodness gracious, how's it going, my boy Todokoi? So the issue why having an offset plane or having any sort of cannon that is offset is that when it fires, especially if it's a powerful round, that's gonna have a yawing moment. One hell of a yawing moment from the impulse of the cannon. These railguns or plasma weaponry. If it's a plasma gun, then that means there's not much. Okay, in that case, that works just fine. In that case, there's no issue with this thing being here. If this is like a tank gun, then that could be a little bit rough. But if it's like a plasma gun, then that doesn't actually produce recoil, then that's probably better. The Sea Vixen has an offset cockpit thing. Yeah, but does it have a tank cannon right next to it? That's what I'm saying. An offset cockpit is not necessarily unrealistic. It's the rest of the aircraft design. How does it play in with that? Because the reason to have an offset cockpit is very unconventional. There are definitely some use cases for it. Like for observational aircraft, that might be useful to have an offset cockpit from where the engine is located. But when it comes to what is this thing called? Air superiority fighter. I forgot this was an air superiority fighter, not a bomber. This looks like a bomber. Yeah, this could be a little rough. It could be. Perhaps. So yeah, I was gonna say the Sea Vixen doesn't have a giant cannon, but again, it sounds like this is like a plasma cannon or something. So I would expect, or railgun even. So I wouldn't expect much recoil Well, maybe. I don't know about the railgun thing. Maybe there's recoil in that. So here, I still don't understand the CFX at all, though, and that thing was produced somehow. Yeah, like, there are some unconventional aircraft that have existed that certain things like an offset cockpit like this, not being in the center, probably drew inspiration from. But as far as what this thing is designed to do and how it looks, I wonder. The Tau Doctrine is mostly about beyond visual range combat and technological superiority. BVR. Okay. In that case, I guess that's why this is a railgun or a plasma thing. Because I was going to say, if you want to shoot something that you can't see, typically you would need some sort of guidance system, like for a missile, for instance. But if you have like a direct line of sight, but it's still beyond visual range, I guess a railgun is a way to do it. That's one way to do it. Yeah, we're doing 40k now. Keep the enemy at a distance while your guns chew them down. Which makes sense. Okay, so if that's the case, and this thing isn't necessarily designed for dogfighting, it's meant to basically fly up, shoot a thing that can't see it because it's too far, and then turn around and fly the back home to rearm and do it again. This works perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, yeah, this is actually kind of realistic in that sense, because like yeah, it looks like a big plane, but if it's not designed for dogfighting, because this doesn't look like something that dogfights. I mean, the wing is so fucking large, like it's all wing for the most part. It's borderline the flying wing. Yeah, your wing loading on this thing is very low, but to pull any high G maneuvers on this thing, you'd be imparting a lot of load on the wing itself. So you need a really beefy structure, which, I mean, everything, beefy structure in Warhammer 40k, what isn't, right? Everything is very, very beefy. And has missile bays. Okay, nice. So definitely BVR. Basically, it's a missile mule, a missile and railgun mule, as opposed to a fighter, which is much inferiority fighter. Yeah, which is like, honestly, oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's what all this is, huh? High key, that's kind of what the F-22 is kind of designed for. Believe it or not, the concept of operations for the F-22 is not to get into dogfights, because if you get into a dogfight, you risk being shot down. Why would you want to risk getting your $138 to $350 million airplane shot down? The F-22 is supposed to take off, super cruise, launch missiles at an air target, or I guess drop bombs nowadays, and then turn the fuck around and go the fuck home as fast as it possibly can. Because they're way too valuable to risk purposely putting it into a dogfight. If it gets into a dogfight, it can fight itself out perfectly fine. But that's not what it is operationally supposed to be doing. This looks a little less F-22 and a little more B-2, where it's meant to fly long distances, perhaps, destroy things from a distance, turn around, and go home. And that's mainly due to just how big the thing looks, right? Like, this is a big motherfucker. Hey, how's it going? There's a queen. Thanks for dropping in. Also, the whole thing about high angles of attack and having engine intakes on top of the wing, again, not advised. Although I will say, okay, this is an interesting detail I just noticed. These are turbulators. That's actually an interesting thing, an interesting detail that the designer of this model kit decided to put in. This actually keeps air attached to the top part of a wing larger, for a longer period of time compared to if they weren't there. This makes it so that the air doesn't stall at a lower angle of attack. Okay. That's a very interesting thing that they decided to put there. Okay. Basically, this makes this a lot more feasible, especially for the mission that this thing is designed for, and the placement of the engine intakes on top of the wing. This allows the air to remain attached to the top of the wing for longer. Granted, it would still probably be better if this was located on the bottom side, but there could be other reasons why, whoops, my bad. There could be other reasons why the engine intakes are on top that I'm not thinking of. Is this a stealth fighter perhaps as well? Probably, that's what this would lead me to believe. So that's interesting. Okay. You know, all things considered, now that I understand what this plane is built for and how it actually looks, this is actually kind of realistic. You know, like the whole like high-tech stuff aside that doesn't exist in our world in an operational standpoint yet. I don't see why this wouldn't work, honestly. Like, you even have your vertical fins for your lateral stability. You know, like, you didn't take the flying wing approach where you had, like, the split elevons, whatever you want to call them. But it has control surfaces that work, that move, it looks like. It has its stability down pat. It even has, like, yeah, it even has, like, the canards for, you know, better stability. Like, shit, man, this thing, probably the most realistic plane that I've seen out of all today. Like, actually, though. That's very interesting. Yeah, let me catch my chat. Depends on what poor race has been recruited for the melee party fight. Yikes. Let's see. Joke about the Tao's official art is in the official artwork. If you can see the Tao, then they ain't winning. I guess that makes sense then. It can operate in space, so the engines are probably amphibious. You know, you had me there until you told me this thing works in space. at which point, why? Also, I just got pinged. Who pinged me? What did you say? What did you say? Oh my. Yes, sir. You got one of these. Hey, this thing exists, though. Yeah, this thing is fucking weird. This thing is weird for the sake of being weird, but I'm not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about planes. Oh, my plane review from here. Anyways. More realistic than the FTO Reality Warp 747? Ain't no way. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Red Bull is known for doing crazy ass shit, honestly. It can have a suite, but they already have a dedicated stealth drone. I was gonna say, like, this would probably be helpful for reducing the heat signature, and the fact that it has grates here would probably also reduce the radar cross signature or radar cross section of this aircraft as well. So it kind of like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that based off of what you told me, this aircraft mission is supposed to be, it looks like this thing is well designed to actually accomplish that mission adequately without knowing anything about its weight, its fuel load capability, and all that. It looks like this is properly designed for the mission at hand. Therefore, this is probably the most realistic plane I've seen tonight. So honestly, very, very nice. Very good submission. I'll give it a full 40K out of Warhammer 40,000. There we go. Perfectly adequate at the very least. Potentially exceptional at its role. And it sounds like it has to be because they don't make a lot of it. Very low numbers, yeah. So this is the F-22, $350 million a pop plus. Don't fuck it up and don't get shot down. And it looks like it is designed to do just that for the greater good and dead. It's very cool. So therefore, highest rated plane tonight. Perfect. Next plane. What do we got? Ooh, a transport plane. Hey, yo. Very nice. Let me take a sip real quick. What have we here? C4 transport aircraft from the anime Patlabor. Nice. I know a little bit about Patlabor. Not a whole lot, unfortunately, but I know some of it. Aircraft specification, you got crew 4. Okay. This is from the OG Patlabor, right? I need to determine something, if this makes sense. Okay, I think I already got my answer. 1988. Okay, that makes more sense. It also takes place in the near future of 1998-2002. You know, close enough. Okay, the reason I wanted to know when this came out. Why is there a navigator? Why is there a navigator for the transport aircraft? And the reason why is because GPS didn't exist. And I guess the modern navigational aids that pilots use nowadays in transport aircraft didn't really exist in that much of capacity in 1988, I guess. In the near future of 2002. So they know where they're going. Yeah, that's what the co-pilot is for. Just saying. Yeah, like the reason you'd have a navigator is if the workload for the pilots is so high to fly the aircraft such that they cannot focus on navigating, which is normally the reason why there is a co-pilot to begin with. In modern day aircraft, there are no more such thing as a navigator. There's no such thing as a flight engineer anymore. It's only two people in the cockpit, a pilot and a co-pilot. And that's essentially how it's been for decades at this point. but it wasn't that widely known or widely done in 1988. Therefore, it makes perfect sense why, even though this movie or anime is supposed to take place in 1998/2002, it was made in 1988, where there was still express need. Flight engineers still existed in 1988, is what I'm saying. It was one navigator/radio operator. Yeah. Nowadays, transport aircraft, even in the military, the pilot monitoring, i.e. the co-pilot / the first officer, whatever, or the pilot, whoever the role is in charge of handling the radio operations. Navigation is a lot easier nowadays because GPS exists and INS exists. Like, there's so many more technologies that came out since this movie was made that has been widely known about that kind of make a navigator so redundant that you just don't need them. Yeah. Speaking of the near future, Ready Player One's Oasis came out in 2025. Damn, bro. Feels bad, bro. I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. Hey, yo, wait. When was the metaverse made? Okay, I digress. Unfortunately, I cast Prez as your forever Rio, Tony. That's right, a Rio in a non-tandem cockpit. You know, I'm fine with that. Except she has to be alive. She's my wife, okay? Prez is my wife, and she, I stopped myself from saying something crazy. I'll say it anyway. Prez is my wife. She is my forever Rio. I will always eat her ass. Next! And we're talking about planes. All right, enough of that, shall we? Yeah, we're going to talk about C4 Galaxy, a transport aircraft. Yeah. Hey, you guys are giving me numbers to talk about. Let's talk about numbers. Numbers, I love numbers. Okay. Let's pretend that never happened. Oh, add in 5 minute. Goodie. Maybe I should have waited. For that. Oh, well. Can't blame you. Fucking hell. Okay. This is a heavy motherfucking plane. 58 tons. I think that's probably about as heavy as the C-130 is, so maybe not that bad. I'm not going to talk too much about the size of this aircraft, only because I can't think about the numbers right now. He could have not say it. God damn it. It couldn't not say it. I had to say it. Thanks, Baron. Yeah. I knew what I signed up for. Anyways. This thing has a max speed of 571 miles per hour. I'm glad you gave me an actual thing. Wait. What is that in knots? I'm gonna be that guy right now. I wish I knew how to spell. Okay, so actually the difference is a lot more than I thought. How much is one knot? It's about 1.15 miles per hour. So for this thing that goes 571 miles per hour. Okay, 496 knots. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. In the wiki, it mentions that the plane is short takeoff landing capable, but IDK, I'm not smart. I mean, the C-130 is short takeoff landing capable as well. Like, what was that thing? That one mission in, like, the Iranian hostage crisis, where, like, they're supposed to land and take off from a soccer field with the C-130? I believe it. I will say this is a big motherfucker, so maybe not, but it also kind of looks like a C-130, but with like, oh, okay, this is the fucking platform and everything. Okay. Yeah, this is a big guy. Those are some big fucking engines. Holy shit. Wow. And that's how it looks on the back. Okay. Didn't they plan to use JTOW on those planes? Yeah, they had to use JTOW on those planes. They had no choice. There's no way a C-130 under its own power could take off and land. Well, could take off from a soccer field. But for this one in particular, short takeoff landing is very relative. Like, how short? You know, like, what is considered short in short takeoff and landing, right? It's hard to say. I dig out info from the wiki. Length is 116 feet and wingspan is 126 feet. Makes sense the wingspan would be a bit longer. I will say, though, there's like a lot of structure up here, but the fact that it has a very high tail is really good for a transport aircraft, because that means you can fit big shit in from the bottom. I will say it might be a little bit too tall. I don't think it needs to go up that high up, but it's fine. You know, it's the near future of 2002, so might as well. The engines are wild. Those are some very big, presumably turbo fans, but they all come out through, it looks like these rectangular exhausts. you're taking 3D flow and turning it into 2D. That is interesting. The reason people don't do that nowadays is because why? These engines would work just fine if they're, you know, slung under the wing and they just had like a conventional engine nozzle setup, like a circular nozzle. These are being ducted out into, it looks like these are thrust vectoring as well. Maybe that's how it gets its short takeoff capabilities. That would be the reason why you'd want to duct it into these 2D nozzles. These rectangular nozzles is to get that thrust vectoring higher, you know, your thrust is now pointed down, therefore you get more lift. So this kind of works actually, now that I think about it. Okay. As far as like how big it is, I mean, what's the payload capability? Max payload, 26,000. Okay. Okay. £57,000. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I was like 26,000 kilograms. The fuck is that? Okay. And you also use 58 tons. Is that metric tons? Is that? Oh my god. Officer Box, please. Don't you know I am American? I'm not American, but I still don't get meters. Plane calmly seen carry and drop an 8-meter tall, 4.5 meter wide, and weigh 5 metric tons. Metric tons, mech in the show. Say, what the fuck? It's a kilometer! That's what I'm saying, bro. I don't want to yell because it's 10 o'clock. Also, it's been 3 hours. Fuck me. Okay. I'm going to continue talking about this after this ad break. That is starting right now, basically. So be back in 30 seconds, everybody. I will continue on in a second. New rule. You got to convert everything to freedom units. Oh my god. That... Honestly, to fuck with people, I should like put that in the rules. Like, if you put a meter, if I see anything that looks like it is used in European standard units, and by European I mean the rest of the world for that matter, I will not look at it. Convert everything to football field lengths. That's what I'm saying, dude. Oh my god. Hey, that'll cost you $7. $7. Oh, they sweep back heavily. Yikes. I guess to briefly bring up the YF-19 from Macross, I believe. This is fine if this, since I know this thing can fly in space, this is great for being a re-entry vehicle. As far as like, to put this on an airplane, if you're going that fast to where you only need thrust from your engines, because you basically kill most of the lift, because your wings are no longer producing as much lift, because they're fucking next to your engines. But I understand the engines of this airplane to be so fucking powerful that it can just do that. This is the... Bro. This is that. This configuration is just that. That's so fucking funny, dude. Sheer force, yeah, honestly, this airplane keeps itself in the air by the sheer force of anger alone. And the fact that it has like a 2-to-1 thrust to weight ratio or some shit. Like 100%, dude. That's so good. Okay. Anyways, that was a little aside. Going back to this. I'm gonna have to wrap it up soon. I think I'm gonna do one more after this. No, I'm gonna count after this and see how many I got to do. Because I see Black Rock Shooter, and I have some stuff to say about that. But I have something to say about everything here, dude. Holy shit. We'll stop at the doghouse, dude. Fuck. Okay. So, this airplane, very big, is essentially the newest iteration of air transport technology. It has 2D nozzles that these massive fuck-off engines are channeling air into. But to have that short takeoff landing capability with something as heavy and as big as this thing, it makes sense. I am willing to say I'll give this a Pat Laborde 2 out of 2 because it works just fine. I see no reason, besides the fact that it's just big as hell, like why it can't exist, because normal planes are, well, big as hell. So IDKY decided to slant the engine thingy forward. Slant the engine thingy forward. What do you mean? Like, are you talking about like these engines? Like, Oh, like, are they actually slanted forward? Interesting. The reason I see what you mean. Okay, the reason they would do that is because that is the expected, is the most efficient for whatever angle of attack this aircraft is designed to be. I will say, if you're slanting the engines forward like that, that means you expect your airplane to fly at the reverse angle of that the entire time. Like, this airplane could probably fly just fine, like at a slight angle of attack. Like, this is like 1 degree. Depending on how far forward those engines are slung, that'll determine how normal the air is going into the engines. Like, let's say, this is going to be a very short thing because I'm about to end stream soon anyway. Let's say the air is coming in this way, and this is the actual angle that they're at. That means it is designed to fly like that the entire time. Woo, baby. That's quite a lot, isn't it? So that would be the reason, is because they expect this airplane to fly at that angle of attack the entire time, whatever that is. Now, this doesn't look that drastic, so I'm sure it's probably fine, but what that means is that the Loadmaster has a lot of fucking work ahead of him to make sure all the cargo doesn't fall out the back, because it can carry a 5.5 metric ton, whatever the fuck that means, mech in the show. Maybe it's makes it easier for it to drop it, to airdrop it, maybe that's why. Honestly, that makes as much sense as anything else, honestly. Just be speedy enough. It actually exacerbates it. You also have to go pretty fast. This thing only goes about 500 knots, which is, it's fine. I mean, 500 knots airspeed is like, that's about what you'd expect an airliner or a heavy transport aircraft to go at nowadays, a jet engine powered transport. So yeah, I see no issue with that whatsoever. Also, how's it going? Let me cook. Welcome in. I count 18 left after Snoopy, so you'd be just over halfway done. Perfect. Okay, that's great. That means I could, now that I know how long it took me to go through these submissions, I can pace myself better for the next time, for part 2 of this stream. Because yeah, ain't no fucking way I'm doing all this tonight. The wiki said bigger than C-130, smaller than a C5. I believe it. Have you seen the C5? Those things are fucking massive. So no, I definitely believe that. So yeah, I'll give that a Pat Labor 2 out of 2, because this is pretty realistic, honestly. Honestly, yeah, like this, fucking hell, this and this are the 2 most realistic aircraft we've come across so far. Very nice, and it is very big as fuck. So 2 out of 2, good job. Nice plane. Next plane. I think this is gonna be the last one for the day, because I don't know if I want to start. No, I'll end at Snoopy. I'll end with Snoopy. Fuck. I still have 1 more quota for the submission, because the first one I deleted is too realistic. Bruh. Were you the one who put the ARC 170? What the hell? Let's see. This is La Future. The Brunhild from, I don't know, I probably butchered that, from Black Rock Shooter, the game. I didn't know it was a video game. A 2-seat fighter jet that is VTOL STOL capable. So here's the thing. You say this is a fighter jet. Okay. This is on the PSP? What the fuck? It's on the PSP? No shit. I mean, let's look at the graphics. I believe it. I believe this was on the PSP. That looks about right. It's definitely VTOL capable, that's for sure. Okay, and this is the cockpit. I could talk a lot about the cockpit, actually. You have a wing on your right hole, I was gonna say. Yeah, this is interesting. Also, I see the thrust vectoring nozzle here. This looks like a lift fan. So it has the same exact setup, or similar setup to a Yak 141/F-35 Lightning. Oh, straight up, there's a lift fan right there. Okay. So it definitely took a lot of inspiration from those 2 aircraft. What do we got? The wing. I know it's supposed to be shaped like a sword. It looks like it has 2 literal blades for wings and a shit ton of missiles. Oh yeah. I'll have to think about this. Because this is all this, like, not all this is. What this is a very it's a delta wing fighter, but it's all wing. Like, there's no fuselage forward. So that means I would expect the center of gravity to be pretty far aft. Like, so if we go back to this thing, I'd expect something like this, honestly. Such that the center of gravity is pretty far back. The center of lift will have to be... Honestly, the center of lift might be a little... it's hard to tell. Like, you'd have to do an actual, like, weight and balance analysis of this thing. It's a delta wing, but it's just a delta, yes. It's a neat anime-like logic. Yeah, it's a rule of cool, you know, at the end of the day. It's a Dorito. German Dorito, but less stable. So yeah, the thing about, you know, the German Dorito and the B2 and all flying wing aircraft for that matter is that they're much more efficient in general than having a fuselage, because now all parts of the structure of the aircraft contribute to lift as opposed to just the wing. But it does have its own implications as far as stability is concerned, because how do you make a wing stable when it only has one vector of lift? If this thing didn't have a tail, this thing would constantly be in a nose down moment, because, you know, the weight is going through the center of gravity, but your actual... Also, by the way, this is so unrealistic. This thing should be closer here, but your lift is always pushing upwards behind it. Therefore, it's always going to want to nose down. The reason why B2s don't fall out of the sky like that, or the German flying Dorito, is because they probably do something to play along with they have some way to add some sort of counteracting force. Maybe they have a force on the front here. That's what a canard is supposed to be for having a downward force at the front of the aircraft. That's supposed to be at the back. But maybe they have something down here. I don't know actually what it's supposed to look at, or I don't know what it's supposed to look like for the force balance diagram for this plane. So I don't know. Having said that, that doesn't necessarily mean this is unrealistic. Also, how's it going, Samurai? I love military aircraft. Harrier. Yeah, I love the Harrier too. It's pretty sick. VTOL. We're talking about a fictional aircraft for today, though. I'll do a separate stream for real aircraft. Dorito had ailerons that could be used as an equivalent of a tail. Probably but close enough. I know what you're talking about. So, and that's the thing, right? The B2, yeah, I'll just talk about that. Yeah, so basically it has that shit. Rudder attach points, and now, well, rudder attach points, not really rudder. So that's how a flying wing like this has directional stability, is because it has a split rudder like that. For an aircraft like this, it would have to have something similar. Wait a second, am I just dumb? Oh, I take it back, guys. I'm just fucking blind. I didn't notice there's a tail. It's literally right there, Tony. Look at the plane, brother. Please, it's okay. Like it literally has a fucking stabilizer back there. I'm blind as fuck, guys. Okay, I apologize. Yeah, you could have told me. I'm looking at chat too. Like, hello, bruh. God damn it, man. I went on a 5-minute tangent more than I had to. I drink to forget and to ease the pain of my suffering. But yes, okay. I completely missed that this thing has a horizontal stabilizer in the back. This plane just, it works. This thing works, man. There's no reason this shouldn't. It also looks like it's big enough. Assuming this entire thing is control surface, there's no reason why this thing wouldn't. Well, the reason it wouldn't work is, I feel like this wing might be a little bit too large. High key, this wing might be a little bit too large. It might shift the CG back to, or the center pressure too far back, to where even at full deflection at any given airspeed, these might still not be big enough. Maybe, perhaps. But this thing also has thrust vectoring nozzles, so you can have a downward force that way. So high key, I think the designers of this aircraft probably, I feel like they accidentally made a design that works, that could feasibly work. Cause I can see these are thrust vectoring nozzles. I know it's really hard to tell, but like this thing could tilt downwards. I don't know if there's any reason for me to believe it can't tilt upwards as well, but like it just works. Anthony Todd Howard Talon, yes sir. It's a Like, what's your name? Anthony. I'm named after my father. Who's your father? Kelly Johnson. Nope. I wish. The placement of the missiles are unorthodox. They're really going to shift the CG forward. But for a plane like this, how you keep for a plane like this, you probably don't want too forward of a center of gravity. It might actually be in your best interest to put these missiles closer to the back here, if anything. Because, yeah, the more your CG is shifted forward, the more, you know, downward moment you're going to have, and the more these have to work to make sure your plane doesn't do a front flip. So, but besides that, I mean, this is perfectly fine. The realism anime logic balance, like, I think they accidentally created something kind of realistic. Now, looking at the cockpit. So, this is where I have something to say about her shorts. Goddamn, I'm sorry. Anyways, no. We're talking about, like, this is not the proper attire for a high G fighter, bro. Like, what? Where's your G suit? Where's your G suit, girl? Holy shit. It's okay. She's an anime girl. She is impervious to G forces. There's no blood in her body. Anyways, this is this cockpit is both very spacious, but kind of doesn't help with the whole fighter thing. Certainly beats that one mecha cockpit. Wait, are you talking about Darling in the Franxx? Because that's the only thing that comes to mind right now. Only because I'm looking at the Tana position and the girls in front. Okay, never mind. We're not talking about Darling in the Franxx in 2025, the year of our Lord. God damn it. I knew it. I will say, I do really like her fit. I'm not going to say why I enjoy her outfit so much, but I really do. I'll say that much. Anime girls made of ink and pixels, specifically this one. Do you know the entire Black Rock Shooter song was created because some guy, it was actually the artist for Kiara from Hololive English, Huke, yeah. Like, he made Black Rock Shooter. He's like, this is a cool girl that looks like Hatsune Miku, but black hair and edgy. And then someone made a whole fucking song about her. And then, like, what the fuck? Like, an entire franchise existed because someone drew something that looked cool. Huke Papa, exactly. It's kind of insane. Again, I digress. So, this is interesting in the sense that this cockpit is pretty spacious. Like, it looks almost like you can stand up and, like, crouch away in this cockpit. Like, how do you enter this, you know? I almost expect, like, I can't speak anymore. I almost expect there to be, like, a door back here that you can get out, because there's just so much space in here. The reason why cockpits are not this spacious usually is because everything in a cockpit has to be reachable by the pilot that's strapped in. This guy and this girl are not supposed to have the luxury of leaning forward. Because when you're in a fucking aircraft and you're flying inverted, for instance, you cannot have any amount of slack in your harness. You have to be strapped the fuck in. So this poor guy, if he has to click a control, like one of these control switches or flips anything right there, he better have long enough arms, because that's a bit of a reach. Ideally, cockpits should never be designed such that the pilot has to, like, physically move their entire body or, like, change their posture in order to reach their vital controls. And when I say any cockpit, I'm actually talking about fighter aircraft in general. That's why HOTAS is a thing. The pilot doesn't have to move their hands at all to do everything necessary in a dogfight to win and survive. Everything is on their control sticks and the throttle. For this aircraft, this guy in the back has the luxury of not flying the plane, so he can do other stuff with his hands. But that shouldn't be unbuckling his harness to reach under the seat to click a thing, you know? This is kind of big. Our cockpit needs to be ergo, exactly. Like, this isn't the most ergonomically designed. This is something that I'd expect on a plane where you don't have to worry about high G's. And because, tell you what, if you're reaching out with your arm and this girl decides to pull up 9 G's, your arm suddenly weighs 9 times heavier. When was the last time? So imagine you can curl 30 pounds. Are you able to curl 270 pounds? I had to think about that for a second. Mental math. 9 times 30, yes. Suddenly your arm weighs 9 times heavier. That's not good. That's a great way to like smash your arm into this and break your elbow. Yeah, maybe just the coffee machine. That's what I'm saying. Hey, coffee machine in the cockpit? That's crazy. Thoughts on the chains and the... Are these chains? Why? Why do you need chains on the... I know, really cool, but like, I just realized those are chains. Those are not control... Those are not like control things. But why though? Oh my god, it's so like... It exists because it's cool, you know? There's no reason for there to be chains anywhere on this aircraft. Like empty, like heavy weight, like chains are heavy. You're just carrying extra weight for no reason. And I know that's heuristic, but like, again, weight is the name of the game when it comes to aircraft design. It is one of the most driving factors when it comes to how an airplane looks, is how well can it carry its own weight. If you have a lot of extra weight that doesn't need to be on the plane, it should probably be taken off the plane. Huki did do all the art for this game, which is crazy, dude. So this is all Huki, man. Awesome. Yeah, so he reaches but not optimal. Yeah, like that's to say, right? If these are just chains and they're not anything, I'm like, okay, maybe it doesn't matter. In which case, the question would be, why is there so much space in between the edge of this cockpit panel? Because it looks like you can almost like have someone stand there and like bench, like kneeled over here. There's like a lot of space in this cockpit that I don't think needs to be. It kind of does look like a submarine, actually. Meanwhile, that one plane toilet, yeah. The Su-34 has a kitchenette and a toilet in the back because those are not designed to dogfight. They're designed to drop a shit ton of bombs. And as a bomber, it's kind of nice to let your pilots have creature comforts, especially if you're going to make them stay up there for hours on end. Skibbity toilet bomb. Oh my fucking god. I'm going to ban you, Acosta. How dare you? How dare you? Anyways. Dropped a ton of shit too. Oh my god. Anyways. Moving on to the last thing I want to talk about, this cockpit design. It's a 2-seat fighter jet. Something that is pretty important in fighter jets, especially if it's something that is designed to dogfight, is visibility. God, man, what a fire fit, by the way. Freaking, I want a girl with a short skirt and a long jacket. It's kind of, okay, anyways. Something important about fighter aircraft is that they're normally find themselves in dogfights. Unless you're talking about something like this, where it's just like a long-range interceptor and you're not supposed to dogfight in it, air superiority, whatever. Part of dogfighting is you have to be able to see the enemy. Are there windows? Is this a window back here? If somebody was like behind this aircraft, like if somebody was like up here, will the pilot be able to see that person? How much maneuvering would it take for that pilot to see the person, right? Gotta believe. So, because it looks like this entire wall has nothing but chains, I guess, it leads you to believe that this is the only viewport she has. She can only look forward. Probably not, lol. Yeah, it's, that's rough. That's rough, buddy. If you can only look forward, and you don't have the ability to keep an eye on potential threats that are behind you, you're at a massive disadvantage in a dogfight. I wouldn't be surprised if they have that whole thing of like, well, there are sensors that tell you where they are. I'm like, okay, she's not wearing a heads-up display. Her heads-up display is up here. She's not wearing a helmet-mounted display. She's not wearing a helmet at all. How would she be able to determine where an aircraft is if it's behind her? Without the peripherals to tell her. It might be a good tank, but a bad fighter, yeah. I was gonna say, it's probably a really good tank. You have a lot of visibility. Just don't get hit on the front, though. And the fact that the cockpit is probably nestled under the wings makes it even harder. Yeah, that's one of those things where it's hard to, like, determine from these pictures. Yeah, it looks like it's... Yeah, it definitely looks like the wings are... And here's the thing, right? Just because the wings are underneath the cockpit doesn't necessarily mean that the visibility is not good, but it would be better if they weren't there, yes. However, maybe that is why there's like a gap so that you can still see underneath the wing through this kind of slit here, maybe. Sort of. I don't know. It's hard to say. The main drawback though is not being able to see what's behind you. Early U.S. naval bombers did have a disadvantage, I think. Yeah, like you just can't see what's behind you, and that's kind of tough, you know, especially if this is supposed to be a fighter. Yeah, I would if I had to make a change to this design, I'd say, sorry, I know you love your chains, but like you gotta get rid of them. You gotta extend this window, dude. Like add some structural supports, whatever you need, but like you need to be able to see behind you. And at that point, this would be a pretty feasible plane for the mission it's designed for. But besides that small detail, like high-key, this is a lot more realistic than I expected it to be. Coming from a PSP game from God knows how long, who knows where. Also, how's it going, Saku? Welcome in. Let you fly blind, bruh. Yeah, that's situational awareness is quite important to fighter pilots, let alone pilots in general. So, yeah, I'll give this a PSP out of PS2. Looks like it's made off of the same hardware. I'm pretty sure the PSP uses the PS2 as its general software. So yeah, not too bad, honestly. It's actually kind of realistic, minus a few details here and there. And the chains are, get rid of those. And I like your fit, girl. Anyways, next plane. I'm sorry, even better. Last plane. Sort of. War Thunder players love to disagree, even if they lose often, of course. Oh crap, it makes me think back to MechWarrior cockpits. I was gonna say, if she had a helmet, then you could say whatever you want. Just say, oh, augmented reality, she has a helmet, you can see through her plane. Perfect. She's not wearing a helmet in this picture, therefore, it is not a thing. Last plane, best plane, dude. Who posted this? Jake? Jake from State Farm, what are you wearing, khakis? I'm like, I had this internal struggle of like, should I just take the piss out of this, or should I try and review it like a real plane? Oh my god, like this is a troll. Okay, I'm aware this is a troll. The Red Baron went oddly silent when he saw it. I was gonna, hey man, all I'm saying is that the Red Baron was real silent ever since Snoopy came out. The State Farm commercial ruined my life. I was gonna say, man, no matter what you can do, I can never do what State Farm has done to you. And for that, I am satisfied. Anyways, this is yeah. Snoopy is a she. Mind blown. What? Don't fuck with me right now. Okay. I wanted to type, what is the sex of Snoopy? So I was about to type in Snoopy's sex. Then I realized what a bad idea it would be to type that right now. Holy shit. Thank God I caught that. Woo! That could have been bad. Okay. You fucking lied to me. Who the fuck said? Who the fuck? Yeah, no, I didn't get one guide. I fact checked your shit. All right, whoever said Snoopy's a girl, let me see. Who is that? Different Mac. All right, banned. Posting fucking misinformation in my chat. How dare you? You see, I would get one guide if I said Snoopy's a girl. No shit. Wow, that's crazy. And then I didn't check it, but I did check it. But apparently he has a brother and a sister. Didn't know that. Rule of Joel Cool. Yeah, that's basically Snoopy right here. Yes. Anyways, the doghouse is supposed to be a Sopwith camel. I do remember that like they actually animated this in the Peanuts thing of like Snoopy flying. I'm gonna type this. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's supposed to be this, basically, right? You could have posted this, but no, you posted the doghouse. You literally got this image, this exact image. That's hilarious. So, but it's supposed to be a, wait, hold up. This is not a Sopwith camel. This is not that, indeed. Five brothers and a sister, shit, no kidding. He fought the Red Baron using his own, dude. Man stole the Red Baron's fucking whip and beat his ass with it. That's crazy. That's actually funny. Anyways, no, not this one. I'm done using this. I think I'm gonna save this though. It might be useful later. So, Snoopy, the man in the male dog at that, playing some mind games. So, we all know Snoopy is hallucinating, right? This is all just Snoopy's imagination. He's not actually flying his doghouse as much as the animation would have us believe, but he is having a great time and he seems to be pretty good at it, except for the part where I think he actually got shot down in that one thing I saw. But and thanks for the care package. I will use this time to sit up better and drink water. But nice. So, I mean, like, what do you want me to say? It's a doghouse, bro. Like, I'm trying to find a way to spin this to where it's like, okay, well, actually, like, okay, you know what's realistic about that is that it's a doghouse. You can make a doghouse. I can make a doghouse. We can all make a doghouse. Therefore, it is a realistic thing. Not a plane. Oh my, I don't know what I can say, bro. You know what? Fuck it. This is the last plane of the night. 3 cheers of what? Okay, you guys already made your decision. This is the best plane. I'll give this the highest rating of fucking LSD fueled hallucinations out of World War I. Last plane. Congratulations, you won Jake from State Farm. Snoopy has the best plane, the most realistic, more so than this, which is actually realistic, more so than this, which is surprisingly realistic. This is by far the most realistic plane we have seen tonight. Thank you very much for everyone for dropped it. Thank you very much everyone for your submissions. There we go. Snoopy has 2 sisters. Ooh, even better. The only doghouse that can fly is the engine cover. There you go, dude. Yeah, no, this is this was a stream and a half. Bro, I spent 3.5 hours talking about, well, I spent 1.5 hours talking about 2 planes, and then I spent the next 3 hours talking about like everything else, which is crazy. So I will say lessons learned. Let's see, how many more do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. I wanted to talk about these because I have a lot to say about this too. Well, the stuff I had to say is actually less about, actually, yeah, the stuff I had to say about this wouldn't be that much different than other stuff I've already said. I have a lot. Oh, I have a lot to talk about for this one. It looks cool, but man, do I have a lot to say. Holy shit. Anyways, let's do a quick look into the future. How much do I actually have to do? The VOD will be amazing. Oh my fucking god. Who's gonna watch the full 3.5 hour VOD? Raise your hand. Jesus Christ. Anyways, what do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 1, 7, 8, 9. All the airships are later. God damn it. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You guys all won. 15. 16. This is Digimon. 17. 18. Oh my god. Oh, it has a gift. Nice. 18? Okay, 18. Not bad. Raise a hand. Oh, you're gonna watch the whole VOD. Let's go, baby. Well, I hope you enjoy it because it's coming up right after this. I also gotta eat my dinner, so I have some leftovers I'm gonna eat. So yeah, 18 for now. Now that I know how long it took me to get through this and what I need to say and what I shouldn't be saying and going down, I'm not gonna do this again. As much as I would love to talk a bit more in depth about why certain things are realistic and stuff, this took a lot of time. This took me a lot of time to actually do. And one not to Google, yeah. I mean, if I have to, I'll try my best not to bother Googling just because, like, it's inevitable. I'll probably have to do it at some point. But I'm not gonna go into as much in-depth analysis for like how planes work because I think that deserves its own stream. Okay, at some point in the future, probably it has to be next year. I don't know if I could do it sometime this year. We will have a Anthony Talon, Mr. Anthony Talon teaches you about airplanes and how they work and how they fly. I'm gonna make a fucking lesson plan and actually do this for you guys because I think this could be interesting for y'all. If you guys are interested, of course. If you're not interested, well, you don't have to show up to that stream because I want to do it anyway. So if you want to learn about airplanes and about a bit more about how airplanes actually work, stay tuned for that. That's going to be coming eventually. Mr. Talon, not doctor. No, I'm not a doctor, as a matter of fact. I had to tell this to my students. Yes, I had to teach people in college because I was a TA. I am not a doctor. I do not have a doctorate. I'm working on my master's at the time. You cannot call me Dr. Talon. And then that motherfucker proceeded to call me professor. And I'm like, motherfucker. Close enough. The piss tuber himself teaching us, yes sir, about planes and piss. Absolutely. So yeah, this was a good stream though. I have a great idea of where to go. I'll use this as my starting, as my starting point for next time. This looks pretty realistic too. Look at that. So, okay, you want to call me Professor? Call me Professor. Call me Doc. That's my Doc is my middle name. Doc Talon. Yeah. Anyways, thank you all for your submissions. I will be doing this again. I will plan to do it again same time next week, next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, because I think we'll still be in daylight savings at that point. Interesting. There it is, Doc Talon, Dog Talon. What the hell? What'd you calling me a dog for? Hey, you use W though. That's nice. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and call it tonight. Let's go ahead and find someone to raid. As Dr. Talon. Let's see. Is there anyone I can raid today? Hello? Oh, that's a cry button. Whoops. Yeah. Some of y'all submissions make me want to cry. God damn. It's okay now. I want to give everyone a fair shot as much as I possibly can. And I think I did okay. We shall see. Who do we got? All right. Looks like Habu is playing some Withering Waves. Shall we pay her a visit? Thank you, Habu, for streaming so late because you always give me someone to raid. Like, actually, though. Oh my gosh. Let's do that real quick. I wish I knew how to spell. Yeah, so she's playing Withering Waves. That's a game I was considering picking up. I don't know if I'm gonna have the time to anymore, because it's another gacha game. Okay, I'll finish Genshin, then I'll pick up Withering Waves. There we go. That sounds perfectly fine by me. So, as always, if you have access to the Tony emotes, feel free to use that as your raid message. But if you don't, no worries. You can use this as your raid message as well. Speaking of Habu, we're going to be playing together some Tarkov, Escape from Tarkov with Habu and Whiskey tomorrow. I think Whiskey's only staying for a short time, but we'll be playing with Habu and a nice little collab for Tarkovia. I hope you guys are ready to see that because we're starting bright and early at 5 p.m. Right after work, I get to start up stream, so it'll be great. Derpy Gotcha dropped a while ago, oh god. So, just play Blue Protocol. I'm good, bro. That's an MMO. Holy shit. I mean, I'd be interested, but like, how am I supposed to play a fucking MMO? Anyways, well, we'll see. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I will see you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m. And that'll be it for me this week because I have music stuff to work on. I'm not going to tell you what because these are actually going to be secret for once. So without further ado, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stick around for the raid, please, and get some drink, food, and water, and rest, and all the good stuff, because I need a piss. I face tanked not taking a piss for like 3.5 hours. I need to do that like ASAP. See you guys later. Bye.